Hello and welcome to the Captain's Table, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Paul Berserker01 Batman Shelley, your humble host and space bartender at the AstroPub, your space bar at the end of the galaxy. Sit back, relax, enjoy the show. We got a good one for you. This is the Captain's Table. The Captain's Table is where I bring people from the Star Citizen community to talk about the game, the news, the updates, maybe do some theory crafting, and so on and so forth. Just generally being discussing, hanging out and talking. And for those of you watching this after the fact on YouTube, there is a full version of this, which will include the question and answers session, which will be up with the link right above Fastcart's head if you want to watch that. It starts from here and goes all the way forward. So if you want to watch that, you can always do that. And remember, if you're enjoying this, make sure you hit that subscribe button and like the video and comment down below for all those kind of all the kind of stuff, because it helps tell the algorithm that you like it, and then they'll tell the other people to come in and watch it who might like it, and helps spread the word. It helps out a lot, especially in this. I keep
thinking about this person called algorithm. I can't wait to meet them one day.
You can't. They're mythical. They're like a sacred internet god that you that sort of exists in the ether. But this is
algorithm. Is that you?
Exactly. But this is the summer of Star Citizen, or this is Star Citizen summer, which means that it's people are out touching grass and not watching Star Citizen content because there's not much here. So
that is mythical. That is mythical.
That is the mythical one. But we have two veterans of the Star Citizen community, and of course of the Captain's Table here, both members of the Soul Citizens podcast, and this is going to be a special. This is a two-parter. That's right. This is a two-part video. You're going to have to watch this video, and then you're going to have to watch the other video, which is going to be on the Soul Citizens, about the same topic. So make sure you're subscribing to us here and subscribing to the
collab.
It is. It's technically a collab.
It's our first collab.
It is. It's going to be good, too.
It's like off the cuff, collab too. So it's if you said, hey, let's just do a collab.
Spontaneous collab.
So make sure I have that link up there above Fastcart's head if you want to go watch the second part of this. But watch this one first, then watch over there, and you'll be good. You don't have to watch them in any order. It'll just be nice to kind of bounce back and forth. All right. With that all being said, let's introduce folks. Let's start with Griffin. Griffin Gaming RPG. Who are you? What do you do in Star Citizen, and where can they find you?
I'm Griffin Gaming RPG. I'm the producer with the Soul Citizens. Been around the community since 2013, and been on this show I don't know how many times, but more than I ever would have expected. I produce the show Soul Citizens along with Soul Talk and Soul Voices, with a great community of people that are just family and very cool people to be backers of Star Citizen. And you can find us at Soul Citizens on any social media. That's SOL, not SOUL, SOL Citizens with an S. And you can see our main show on Sundays at 8 p.m. Eastern. And we have two satellite shows, one hosted by Fastcart, which is on Thursdays at, get it right, Fastcart, 9 p.m. Eastern.
9 p.m. Eastern.
And also Soul Voices, which we just ended at 3 p.m. Eastern time. That's us. It's me.
Awesome.
It's him.
Part of
Podcast Saturday.
Yeah, it's Podsat Saturdays, where it's Soul Citizens podcast or Soul Voices, right? Or is it
Soul Voices is a Podsat Saturday? Yeah, Voices.
Yeah, Voices, and then Captain's Table, and then we've got the Relay Station, which happens after this one as well. You can check them out as well. And then we have Mr. Black Dress himself, the ambassador to Star Citizen ambassador. Official Star Citizen ambassador. He doesn't believe that, but there's only two of them. It's him and Captain Richard. And I was there. I watched it. I watched the coronation chat. I was there. Mr. Fastcart, who are you? What do you do in Star Citizen, and where can they find you?
Hello, I'm Fastcart, also known as FC. Welcome to another episode of Three Vote Guys. One is a school teacher. The second is a retired videographer. The third is a comedic genius whose genius has yet to be discovered. Three Vote Guys, live on Twitch.tv. Check your local listening for time. And the sad thing is, with the current strike, we probably have a good chance of it being picked up.
Oh.
Yes, I'm part of Soul Citizens, also with Griffin, and I host the Thursday Soul Talk at 9 p.m. Eastern.
See, this is the reason why I couldn't be on Soul Citizens as a regular cast member. I don't have to deal with this. Griff has to deal with this on a regular basis. I don't.
I truly do, trust me. And dealing with it is not the word. Dealing is not the word. But
I
yeah,
drive him to drink, just like most people.
It's okay. Every time Fastcart comes onto the show, he manages to get me demonetized somehow. And so, with that all being said, we're going to have a little bit more of a salty, spicy discussion here. The overall topic is about dreams versus reality of Star Citizen. Like I said, this is a two-parter. It's going to be here, and of course on Soul Citizen, it's going to have the same kind of idea. Because of this is an ongoing idea where Star Citizen has been around for over 10 years now. And when Star Citizen was originally announced, it was an idea. It was literally just a dream. It was ideas on paper. They had some stuff done, but most of it wasn't in any shape or form finalized or realized. Now we're heading into the 11th year of Star Citizen's development. A lot is done. They're kind of coming down to the last little bits of the last 2 or 3 pillars they need to do before the game enters more complete state, more of a beta state. So the question becomes now: Star Citizen's, like, how much of the dream of Star Citizen is realized, will come to pass, and of course is impossible. So before we get to all of that, I want to say I want to ask this question. I'll start with you, Fastcard, on this one. Because there's been a lot of people seeing things like Starfield's coming out, other games coming out, there's, space-based. Starfield being probably the latest one, where they're like, oh, Star Citizen's dead. There's no way Star Citizen's going forward. So I'm going to ask you this, Fastcard. Is the dream dead? Is Star Citizen dead?
Quick answer is no. Long answer is no. No, it's not. No, I don't think the dream is dead. I mean, like, I didn't back in 2012, but I saw the video for the Kickstarter in 2012, and we don't have the Bengal carrier. We don't have access to the Bengal carrier. It is in games. We've seen it during Invictus Week. But we don't. I mean, so we don't have access to the Bengal carrier, but we know it's there. But everything else we've seen in that trailer, I mean, I'm not quite for the tour. It's not just for the Star Citizen, obviously. But everything else we've seen in that trailer, I think we pretty much have, don't we? As far as I can tell, as far as I can remember. I don't think there's anything in the trailer that we're still missing other than the single player campaign. Mm-hmm. So I don't believe Star Citizen is dead. But I do want to address one thing. Like, Griffin is constantly saying that people are stealing our ideas. You just gave Paul our idea, so this is your fault.
No,
we're collaborating. We're collaborating.
But to that point, I had wanted to, we try to balance out when we have guests on.
Yeah.
And I had thought about asking Paul to come on the show. Said, we've been tapping on him a lot, blah, 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 blah. But then when we started talking about the show today, I'm like, dude, I really wish I went on ahead and asked you to come on. And Paul's like, oh, sure, I'll come on. So I know he runs his own show too during that time. So I don't like pulling people when I know they're running their shows at our time.
Yeah,
but then he was down for the idea. And I'm like, well, dude, let's carry it over into 2 shows because it's a big conversation. And we literally just left our afternoon show talking about this already. So I'm excited.
After the fact, right?
I'm excited to see what Paul's community is going to say about this subject. Now, just so you know, guys, Paul's going with dreams in reality, and that's cool. We're doing vision, dreams, and reality, but he is actually doing visions because he's talking about where this started. So we are carrying this through. So we definitely want to hear what you guys think about it, as well as what we're going to be doing tomorrow. So excited about it.
As far as my answer goes, no, the Star Citizen is not dead in my opinion.
Okay. Griffin, your thoughts. Is Star Citizen dying? With Starfield coming out, is the end nigh? Should I be roaming around with those signs and a bell?
Yeah.
In the streets?
You hear people say 2 things. Some people say you can't compare them. Some people say you can compare them. I think there are comparisons, but they're not based upon MMO versus standalone RPG. I think there's some things that exist within. Why does this keep happening? When No Man's Sky came out, it was going to be the Star Citizen killer. I even remember one of those freaking Call of Duty games when they showed they were in space. People were saying that was going to be Star Citizen killer.
So
you know what I mean?
Infinite Warfare.
I remember that.
These terms keep coming up with those things that are going to kill Star Citizen, and ultimately, those games exist, and Star Citizen continues to exist. So I don't see it as being dead. Financially, we've seen it grow. numerically we've seen it grow. So I don't see the evidence of it dying or being dead yet. I don't see it yet.
And to expand on that, I just want to say, remember Anthem? That was when the Star Citizen killer. Remember Mass Effect Andromeda? That was when the Star Citizen killer. So every 18 months there's another one, right? Starfield is the latest.
Yeah, I mean, I know Fastcard has more of that information on hand in terms of funding, but the one thing that I always like to keep people, when I hear people being like, X Star Citizen is dying, or people being like, oh, I'm done with Star Citizen and that kind of thing, is that Star Citizen's had people come on and off all the time. It just happens naturally with video games and with content creators as too, Yeah. But on top of that, this is July. And as just a general content creator, I can tell you July is the worst month for content creation, because there's this thing called the summer and the summer break, and this thing called grass. If you're watching this video right now, you probably have heard of this mythical thing called grass, which you can go out and touch. There's the vast majority of people actually go out and touch grass during the month of July.
What?
Unless you live in Australia, in which that is snow. But so as a result, a lot of people take off July for holidays with their kids and so on and so forth. And CIG is no different. That's how people, a lot of people will take those kind of days off as well. And overall, as a result, information dies down. And for Star Citizen specifically, but video games as well. No one releases video games in July for a reason. So just in general, you'll see probably less content creation being made on it. You'll see less people talking about it. You'll see less people playing it, and that's just general with most games. And it's been happening every July for 11 years now,
Yeah, I'm currently looking at the dashboard. This is on CCU Game. I put the link in chat. But so we are behind this year at the moment, right now. But I expect we have CitizenCon in October, and I expect we'll surpass. It'll be another surpassing year. But I've been wrong before, so who knows?
Yeah, being behind is relative too. Like you said,
exactly.
I wouldn't base it around the calendar. You got to base it by what your end of year numbers are. And I guarantee you that if we're just behind like anywhere from $5 to $10 million, that's nothing in the scheme of things, So I'm not sure how much the behind is, but I wouldn't consider that behind personally.
They're currently at 55 million, and it looks like they were at about 65 million. So we're about 10 million less. 10
million behind. Yeah. And not to be funny, but God forbid they release something that we totally, as usual, don't expect at CitizenCon.
Yeah. Well,
done deal.
To put this in context, we are about 20 million ahead from where they were in 2021. Okay. So 2020. So okay. Like there was 80. They made 86 million in 2021, and last year they made almost 120 million. So there's there's a big jump between the last couple of years. So
And I'm saying between CitizenCon and IAE, no big deal.
Yeah,
guarantee you no big deal.
But yeah, and I mean it's a legitimate question. I know why people get caught up in that when they see some content goes down, but it's also you got to keep in context CIG is going to CitizenCon for live for this first year in a long time. So there's a lot of information that they will not release. August will be better, but it's not going to be that much better in terms of information.
And maybe this is the answer for one of the other questions, but I think Starfield will probably bring more backers into Star Citizen. I mean, some people will probably pay Starfield for a month and then look for the next face game fix, and they can come to Star Citizen if they haven't tried Star Citizen before. So I think a month after Starfield release would be a great time to have a free fly again.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
I think that's about right when the CitizenCon free flight happens, because it's releasing in September, I think. So, yeah. All right. Now let's kind of go on to the next question. I'll start with you on this one, Griffin. Is Star Citizen too ambitious? Is Star Citizen in a situation where like some of the stuff they're doing is just not possible? In your opinion?
Not possible. I'm not is with my limited computer knowledge and experience to say if something's not possible. There are plenty of things in technology that quite often people have thought is not possible, but eventually somebody gets over the hurdle and creates it or makes it happen. Same thing happens with the film industry. You know, some films don't get made until technology reaches a certain point, and then they're able to accomplish it. We just had this conversation too a few minutes ago. Is it too ambitious? We've wrestled with this conversation in our group before, and my answer to that is I feel that unfortunately gamers over time, because of the gaming industry, have forgotten what it means to have an ambitious game. I think that we've gotten used to games that have not been what we call, and I'm using these in the literal sense of the word, groundbreaking, transformative, changing the way we play. Those terms have been used quite often. And then backers get a game that they think is going to be the next level, next generation, only to find out it is a rehash of something that has been around before. Or maybe it's just a newer version of it. But I'm talking about changing the way we play games. The example, Paul, I used of this was Star Wars Galaxies. When that game came out, it literally changed the way gaming was for me. There were other MMOs out before that, no question about that. But if you play Star Wars Galaxies, it was broken as all get out. It was horrible, but it was an amazing game, and it changed the way gaming was. Someone recently brought up Fortnite and saying Fortnite changed the way gaming was. No, it didn't. Fortnite is a variation of something that's been around forever. If you've been around since the days of Unreal Tournament and Quake, you'll know that competitive level gaming has been around for a while. They've just built on what was already there. So to find something to say someone's going to change gaming or be so ambitious that we look at gaming from a different perspective is a rare thing now. And so I want something that's ambitious. I don't want a rehash. I don't want something that I play it now and 3 months later, I'm looking for the next new flavor of the month. I want a game like Eve that I was willing to play for 7 years, or some other game that that I can go back to and play over and over again. And there are only so many games. WoW is one of those games for some people. I want another game like that. I don't want Star Citizen or Squadron to be something that, especially Star Citizen, the universe. I don't want that to be something that a year from now, I have no interest in or no desire to play anymore. So I want ambition, and it's not too ambitious. I want it to be too ambitious.
You want it to be too ambitious. You don't want. You don't think it's. But you don't think it's too ambitious. Like it's impossible.
No,
All right,
not impossible.
Fast Guy, same question for you. Do you think Star Citizen is too ambitious?
Not at the moment. In 2012, it might have been, but as technology improves and developers develop new ideas and new tools, I think too ambitious have become ambitious. I'll give you a good example. Procedural Planet. In 2015, I believe, they said the Procedural Planet couldn't be done, but it's one. As far as I know, one developer took like three months out of their time, and what, lo and behold, Procedural Planet was introduced later on. There's been other examples too, but I think that's the biggest one that came through. One of the ambitious cover 100 systems in Star Citizen. Now, will we ever see that? Possibly down the line at launch, maybe not. But I'm thinking that they'll eventually get there. And by the way, I knew Griffin was going to bring up Star Wars Galaxies, because that's always his go-to favorite. But yes, as far as and like I said, 2012 maybe it was too ambitious, but 2023 I don't think so. It's relative.
I was going to say, Griffin isn't the only one who I've heard bring up Star Wars Galaxies when it comes to Star Citizen. Because, like for those of you who maybe aren't as old as us, remember
all the gray hair in the room, right?
Yeah, I'm probably the youngest. I'm probably the youngest in this crowd.
He's still young. Paul's still young, y'all.
But I was still around when Galaxies first released. I was still gaming when Galaxies first released, and I remember it. I remember the Jump to Light Speed expansion is when I got into it.
Yes,
And for those of you who don't know what that is that's it was an open world MMO, and it wasn't the first open world sandbox MMO, but it was probably the most influential, because they eventually would let you there's so many things like building your own towns and it was so in depth in terms of like a life simulator. It was kind of like a Star Wars version of Second Life almost in some ways because of how detailed you can get into it.
And a lot of people are comparing Star Citizen to Second Life in space, basically.
Yeah, so there's a lot of similarities between the two in terms of like design aspects. And the thing is that was like 2001,
2005 or something.
I thought it was 2003.
Something like that. I forget.
Yeah, 2003. But let's add it to 2003.
Early 2000s. The early 2000s is when that came out. So, it's been 20 years since that came out.
Wow, I didn't think of it like that. Thank you.
Yeah.
now I do feel old.
So yeah, it makes sense. All right, the next one that I was gonna ask you, and I'll start with you on this one, Fast Cart, is do you think Star Citizen will actually release? Do you think it'll actually release a 1.0, or will it just constantly be evolving over time? Do you think CIG will ever say we're done and then stop?
I just want to put up a GIF that says, "Why not both?" But I think it'll be something that's constantly in development. Yes, I think it will have a launch date. I think it will, not a 1.0 per se, but it'll definitely say just in the end of alpha, the end of beta, we officially live. Instead of having a live test server, we have a live server. I think so. We will reach that state. But in addition to that, I think it will also be constantly developing, constantly adding new shit. Because, like I said, eventually the dream is to have a 100 system. So, yeah, I think it'll be constantly developing, adding new ships, new missions, new stuff to do, and, maybe have more tie-ins with Fighting for the 2, because that's going to be episodic 2. So, I'm guessing when 1 for 2 episodes comes out, they may have, like, some kind of tie-in with Star Citizen along with that at the same time. So, that's my guess.
Griffin, same question. Do you think Star Citizen will actually have a release, or do you think it'll just always be developing over time? Not really have like a full like 1.0 kind of release.
Yeah, I think there'll be a release point, and that will be to your point about development. I think that's continuing, and I hope so. I think about games like Eve, that's like that. Eve just they constantly enhance and add new things to it. And I'm actually kind of curious if anybody's been around. I played Eve for 7 years, but I wasn't there at the beginning. I want to say I came in like around year 3. So I don't know how that launched from a beta into its live mode. Maybe somebody can tell me how they did it. But I think that once there's a point of features and stability, when those two things meet, that's when we'll move into the next level, whatever that is, whether that's a beta or final release. Because beta is usually polish. But obviously, stability is going to be important, and feature content being the bulk of the features being, and they can always add new things, but they've got something on a whiteboard somewhere that says this is what we want to have in the game, where we feel like the game is there. And once we're there, then I think there will be a release, and I think there'll be a continuing of development.
I just want to say real quick, Eve is another 20-year-old game, because that one definitely came out in 2003. So happy birthday to Eve.
Yeah. All right, so this next question.
But wait a minute, you didn't tell us yours. You didn't tell us yours.
I was going to say, what about you, Paul?
I mean, I can give my interpretation with that one. Just like, will Star Citizen release? Star Citizen is never going. Star Citizen will stop releasing when Chris Roberts can no longer fund it or is dead.
So you're that opinion. So you think
this is Chris's legacy?
Will die if Chris Roberts?
No. He's not saying that. He's not saying that. He said it will die.
I'm saying like the only way Star Citizen ever is finished is if Chris Roberts is no longer breathing, and that has to be a decision of somebody else. Like I think this is for Chris. This is his legacy game. This is the last thing he wants to make before in video gaming before he's done. So that's and that's been the case. It's been obvious if you look at how Chris talks about the game and everything else like that. You don't build a studio of over 1,000 people unless you really want to get something done.
No,
You don't think they'll
unless
be?
it's
You don't
running
think
one
they'll
hell
be?
of a scam that no one can tell it's a scam.
You don't think there'll be Star Citizen the movie? Is that what you're saying there,
Oh,
Paul? You don't think
Oh my
they'll?
god!
Chris will turn this IP into the last IP he will ever build if it's the last thing he does.
Okay.
If he manages to do what he wants to do, there will be a movie, there'll be TV shows, there'll be a cartoon show, there'll be merchandise.
Books.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and the reality is that like this, we always think about this Star Citizen as the Chris Roberts project, but we never realize. A lot of people don't realize that he didn't start Star Citizen and CIG on his own. He started it with Ortwin.
Ortwin. Yep.
Yeah, and for those who don't know who Ortwin is, he's like one of the top Hollywood lawyers.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's one of the, I think it's like IP law. Like he's like one of the best IP law professionals in the business. Like there's nobody who's better than him in entertainment law. And the fact that he's working with Chris to do this is like, that's kind of nuts. Like that's a lot of money and a lot of backing, as well as a lot of like there's something there beyond this. So,
did you see the news about Ortwin?
No.
Okay, we'll talk about it later.
Okay. Is it good news or bad news?
There. He's still there. No, he's still there. He's changed the position though, but he's still there.
Okay. Yeah. So like, I think when it comes down to Star Citizen releasing, like, I'm sure there'll be a time when the final thing is what Chris wanted to do at the very beginning. The 100 systems is going to be a thing. I don't know when that's going to be, but that'll happen come hell or high water when it comes to this.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Let me ask you a question.
Yes.
Since you're on that question about release.
Yes.
This is our opinions, gang.
Okay.
What's sufficient for you to feel that the verse has enough systems in it?
Personally, it's
the
not
100's down the road. If there was a number that you said, if we had this many systems, I'd be pretty content with this being release point.
one. I mean, the issue with me isn't necessarily the systems. It's the
features.
It's the gameplay. It's the bounty hunting. It's the economy. And obviously, if you need an economy, you need multiple systems.
Right.
But,
so give me a system number. If what 5, 10,
5 would be a good one. Yeah. But
okay.
I also don't think CIG will ever release Star Citizen like that. I think what they'll probably do is just they'll call it beta and then they'll stop wiping. And because there's also another thing to keep in mind, and I'm not a legal expert, so I don't know this, but just my brain immediately goes into, if CIG goes, this is released and it has 5 systems, they open themselves up to possible litigation, because if they said it was released and originally they promised 100 systems and now there's only 5 systems, and they're like, well, I need a refund because you're not giving me what you promised me. So
you got a raid. You got a raid here. Avenger 1.
Avenger 1.
155 folks. Avenger 1, what's up? What's up? Thank you for the raid. Thank you for the raiders. Hey, guys.
Hey, thanks for the raid. And my answer real quick. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I agree with Paul. I'd be happy with 5. I'm not saying this is a release point. I'm saying 5 systems to me, as big as freaking Stanton is, and I know how big Pyro's going to be in Nyx, 5 systems is huge as far as I'm concerned. But go ahead, Fast Card.
Yeah, I'm going to say 3 to 5. So we're all consistent there.
Okay. All right. So, Griffin, I'll ask you this question, this next one then. Because this is a big one it's something that's constantly on my brain, and I know it's in a lot of people's brains. Is the development speed that CIG has, especially, the last 2 years, we've seen kind of a little bit of slower release, some like things don't seem to be coming out quite as fast, or like you maybe get one major thing per year. What is this sustainable, and is this reasonable? At this state, do you think we'll get take 3-4 years to get server meshing fully out beyond the static server meshing and stuff like that? Or do you think that they'll actually speed up as they go through?
Yeah. If you look at the timetable that you're talking about, you're also talking about the same window roughly where Chris said that they were going to have to start putting greater emphasis and work into Squadron 42 to get that out. So to me, those are parallel. One of the reasons why we've seen a little bit of slowdown is because I do believe that the company is really trying to meet that goal. We've talked about this too, that, the release of Star Citizen, even though we do have the persistent universe to a degree that's out there, as unstable as it may be at times, But the other half that they haven't delivered on is Squadron 42, and that's important to do because we bought two parts of the deal, right? We do have the persistent universe, but we don't have Squadron 42. When that happens, to me, that's a milestone. That's part of a big portion of the promise and delivery when both of those are in the hands of the consumer. So therefore, to me, once that hurdle happens, then I think that we'll start to see more happening in the persistent universe because that standalone game is out there. And now they know that they have to continue to have that verse match up with that standalone game, as well as even though there's supposed to be a chapter 2, the next chapter of Squadron 42, of course, they're going to have to work on that. But the tech hurdles, hopefully, of server meshing, the tech hurdle of, from static to dynamic to the full blown thing, the network aspects, there's a lot of technological things that if those hurdles are done, then I think that frees up things. In other words, being able to put out systems more frequently. We already know that they have the tech to move. What they used to take them something like 2 years to make some planets in a system. They do now within 2 to 3 months. So, but those things, we can't see the fruit of that because those other tech hurdles aren't there. So if they can get past those tech hurdles, then systems will start coming faster. Concept ships will come faster. Bigger ships will come faster. And as the company grows, as you mentioned earlier, we're moving from what has been around 800 and something employees for the last few years to now 1,000. I think CIG's ultimate goal is somewhere between 12 to 1,500 employees.
1,500.
So once those things are in place, I think everything speeds up a little bit more, but it takes time. It's a growing company. It's still growing even 10 years later.
Okay. Taskart, same question about development speed. Do you think this is reasonable, sustainable?
I'm going to come at this from a different angle than Griffin. I mean, I believe it's relative. Like, I can understand it. I can understand the development, but I've been following since I've been a backer since 2014. So I find it reasonable. But for a new backer, people are used to early access being a live release now because of Steam and everything like that. So I think newer backers may not find it reasonable because they want the game now and they expect it because they're able to play it. It should be released soon, TM. But I find it reasonable. But I can understand how people may not find it reasonable.
Okay. I'm going to say my own kind of thing because I'm going to disagree with Griffin. I don't think that Star Citizen's development is slow because of Squadron 42. I think it's just because they're tackling stuff that's so hard to do for them and so like fundamental to the game that it just takes them a time. Because like the big thing that's stopping Star Citizen right now is server meshing. Maybe dynamic, not even dynamic meshing, maybe dynamic economy stuff and the quantum stuff is important as well. That's probably the next stage after server meshing. But I don't think that server meshing is going to be a big thing in Squadron. At least I don't think it is. It might. We know that we know as last we heard that it won't require an online connection for you to play the game. You just need to have that to download, and maybe to like authenticate that you own the game. But so it's hard to tell. But in terms of is it reasonable, it's hard for me to make that judgment until we get to the point where CIG has some of those fundamental core stuff in there, and it might take a while. You know, we may see dynamic meshing happening like not next year or like the year after that or 2 years from now, and dynamic economy taking 3-4 years. So it could be a bit before we see all of those pieces fall into place. But the hope is, of course, that once they get dynamic meshing in or static meshing in, there isn't really that much difference between the static meshing and dynamic meshing. So all of the gameplay that's been held back, like add additional NPCs, you know, how NPCs will be handled from meshing and stuff like that, that sort of thing. Ooh, looks good. That stuff.
I was eating Portillo. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I think part of the reason why I find it reasonable because I follow ISC and I follow all the content that CID or news information they put out every month. The monthly report for Squadron 42 and Star Citizen. So if people don't follow those, they may not find it reasonable. But you know, at this stage, I'm just going to come out and say it might be factive to just switch to Unreal 5 at this point.
Oh God. You're gonna troll people like that.
Yeah, really. By the way, since Paul disagrees with me, this is the first time we've ever disagreed on something. He's not going to be on my show tomorrow.
Wait,
collaboration is canceled.
Your show.
Our show.
I understand the concept, and I get why people think that. I think to a degree it's true that. Like,
no, I think you're right. I agree with you. In retrospect, I agree because I think that we know that there's all hands on deck attitude about what's going on with the game. No question about that. And I try to avoid the idea of is it the tech, because, you know, we remember back when SOX was out, we thought SOX was going to be it. You know, every time there's some technological hurdle, once they get past that hurdle, everything's going to unleash.
Oh, yeah.
But I do know that, to your point, these hurdles that you named are really the ones, because we realize it's like the gate opens up for other things to happen when those things are in place. Yeah. So I agree with you 100%.
It's not like it's going to be suddenly a better game. It's just like you can put more NPCs in there and you can use the new NPC technology that they're developing for Squadron. It's just a lot of the stuff. So like, yes, the gameplay that we were expecting from Star Citizen is being sent towards Squadron first and then Star Citizen. That's 100% true. But like, you couldn't do it in Star Citizen right now because Star Citizen is poopy. Background tech is not good. It is not a good situation right now. And so they need to get that handled and that improved before they can start doing that, and which is, you know, why they need to get that done first. So
I have a quick question. Do you think that the development would go faster if they just had ChatGPT code for them at this point?
Sure, but it's stupider now. There's actually an article out there that it's gotten dumber since over the last couple of months. So it's been making mistakes. Yeah. It's interesting about that. So yeah. All right, let's go to the next question. I'll start with you on Fast Cart. This one. This is the big one: dreams versus reality. We've all been around for a long time. So we've been around since the dreams days, since the days of this is a, you know, ideas and people arguing on the forums and the chat log and then eventually Spectrum about what X feature is going to look like or what it should look like and how this is supposed to work. And now a lot of those features are now in place. So I'm going to ask you this question, Fast Cart. How much of Star Citizen is still a dream to be achieved versus a reality that we can play? And also, do you think that there are going to be a number of people who are caught up in the dream that when the reality starts to hit, they're just going to leave? They're just going to realize, this isn't the game I want.
Ooh, that last one. That last one may be tricky. But the first part, say the first part again, please.
How much of Star Citizen is still a dream? It's still
okay. So
an idea.
I just want to say, in relation to that, I'm still waiting on my BMM. I'm still waiting on my Endeavor. They say the Endeavor is going to be the last thing that comes out. So yeah, that's my dream. Those are the concept art, my vision. I should have saved this for a show talk. I'm Soul Citizen tomorrow. I'm sorry about that, Griff. But yeah, like those parts for me are still dreams and visions. Because I like I said, people know this about me. I want to be a marketeer and Star Citizen. I want to be able to maybe overclock or mod stuff on my Endeavor and then sell them on my BMM. That is the dream or vision that I have for Star Citizen when I'm able to. But until those come out, we just don't know how close those dreams are or that dream is to reality. I expect it to be somewhat different than, because like when it first had the Endeavor concept in 2014, 2015, they had this article detailing what they expect the gameplay will be like. I'm imagining now they had to rewrite that because it's going to be completely different. So it'll probably be different than what I'm expecting. But hopefully it won't be too different that I won't have fun. But as far as what was the second part again?
The second part is how many people are going to are just stuck in the dream of Star Citizen rather than the reality of what it's going to be. And like
I've always been the opinion. I've always been of the opinion that people will play Star Citizen for maybe like a week or maybe a month, and then finally it's not for them because it is a niche game.
Mm-hmm.
But but I think people who stick with it or really this is their jam, they're gonna keep it for years. I think quite a few people are like not burnt out, but just say this isn't for me after a week or 30 days. But that's the point in time when I'm gonna keep my BMM and Endeavor in the hangar until after those 30 days. I don't want to get blown up by someone who's gonna leave soon.
Okay, Griffin, your thoughts. First of all, do you think how much of Star Citizen is still a dream versus how much is it's actually a reality? And are there people out there who are still waiting on the dream who might find out that it's not what they want?
Yeah. This kind of leads into what I was mentioning earlier about our title and what you mentioned when you opened the show. Vision, dream, reality for me. Okay. Vision is what Chris said. Dream is what the players have come up with in their own heads based on what Chris said. Some of it matches Chris's vision, which we don't know completely. We know what he has shared, but we don't have the real details of it, But then we've kind of also run away with our own dreams. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm saying that we all dream of what we want to be able to do in this type of game. If we're not careful, we've manufactured goals and things in this game that have nothing to do with CIG. Mm-hmm. We've created the monster ourselves, which could possibly set us up for when the reality comes, we get disappointed. On our flyer for tomorrow, I use the Carrack as an example. Remember when we first heard about the Carrack? Yep. Then we got the concept art for it, and it was this lean, mean, machine, had a spiral staircase inside of it and all that. What did we get? We got a big chubby ship with no staircase, and people were like, that's not what I. But then once the reality set in and people saw what it could do and was like, they were like, okay, it ain't so bad. It's starting to rub off on me, right? People did change a little bit. In the conversation we were having earlier, I use this as an example. I'm going to try to say it as short as I can. You'll remember when Star Wars first came out, right? 1977, original version, it comes out. And if you remember, George Lucas shot a lot of scenes, but there was some stuff he didn't put into the movie because it didn't reach what he saw as a filmmaker. And so 20 years later, he comes up with, the technology's here. I'm going to put out this new version of it, and I'm going to include the stuff that I originally wanted to put in that I couldn't put in. Some people were excited about that. Other people railed against it. I'll never watch the new editions, the special edition. I'm the original thing. In fact, George Lucas, I hate you because you've changed the thing that I grew up on, that I stood in line for, that I bought T-shirts for, because and guess what, George Lucas? I put money. I paid for this sucker. I bought all the discs and I bought all the stuff, but the VHS, right? But guess what? It was freaking George Lucas's vision. It was his story. And ultimately it was his thing. There's even a documentary called The People versus George Lucas, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Because we, as consumers, as people invested, for lack of a better term, as supporters, we embraced it, and all of a sudden, Star Wars became our thing, not George Lucas's thing. And my fear is that with Star Citizen, sometimes we get into that same mode that I've backed it, I've put this much time in, I've been on Spectrum, whatever, and we subconsciously make Star Citizen our thing and forget that it's Chris Roberts' thing. And Chris Roberts, just like George Lucas, invited us to go on the ride. And the question is, do we want to stay on the bus with him, right? Do we want to stay on the train with him? So I think that, yes, there will be some people, to Fast Card's point, that when this is all said and done, whatever they put in their head, if they can't accomplish it, they may walk away from Star Citizen. Even after spending a lot of money and time, they may say, this isn't for me. There are going to be other people who will find ways to adapt, even if it's not what they thought it was going to be, just like we did with the carrot. And then there are going to be other people that are going to be totally ecstatic and excited about what Chris comes up with. And they're going to be more than happy to be in the world. So that's my.
I just want to point out something that Kavion says. He says Chris Roberts versus the people. Yeah, I can see that movie being in the making right now.
I can already see the thumbnails of the YouTube video.
Thank
that's
you.
Right?
Like that,
you know.
Yeah.
This has always been my deep fear, because for me, who's somebody who follows Star Citizen as closely as I do, and I think all three of us follow Star Citizen probably closer than a normal sane person should.
Yeah.
We've luckily been able to talk with developers and get to know some of the people who work on the game and understand more about how CIG produces things, how they work. And I know all three of us know people who were fans who eventually went to go work for CIG. People like Jake and I know the pilot recently.
Knight Rider.
Knight Rider. Yeah. So there's a lot of people Proxys. And so we've kind of been able to get information and kind of get to know what's going on. So for us, we can always ground ourselves in what CIG wants to do. And me personally, it's like CIG is insane. like the people who work at CIG are nuts, because they want to do things that I've talked with developers and other people like that, kind of walk through what they did. And you almost all of them are like, this is nuts. This is not how we would have developed it. It's not this is insane. There's so much more. You're gonna have to develop brand new tech for this, which is gonna take years to develop. And yeah, it takes years to develop. But at the same time, there's always like for us, we see that. But the average person who's backing the game may not know that, may not even, or even people who've invested a lot of money may not actually do that because they're so excited with what's going on. And I know a lot of people say, oh, well, the marketing is deceiving. It's like they've been doing this since before they had a marketing budget. Like people have been talking about this sort of thing.
Yep.
So I'm afraid that a lot of people will look at the realities. But as we go forward, as Star Citizen's becoming more of a thing, and as much as you'll hear people holler about Star Citizen not being done, or it's just, it's broken, it's like the Star Citizen's in a much better position, even now, than it was 6 months ago, let alone 10 years ago, let alone 2.0. 2.0 versus 319.1 is night and day. Those are completely different games. From every aspect. And as we're getting there, the more people who are finding Star Citizen and joining are more of the people who know what Star Citizen's going to be. They can see what CIG is going to do and are less about, what if kind of ideas. So I do think, though, that CIG will get, if they have to, they will invent ways to make what they want to happen. I don't think CIG is going to take no for an answer. I think they'd rather just find another way to do the same thing if it has a problem. I see iCache versus PES. iCache crashed and burned, exploded, and ruined everyone's dinner. So they just threw it out and restarted over from the beginning. So I think that's the same thing CIG will do whenever they see a problem. They'll just try to build their way around it as long as they have the money to do it. So, which kind of makes
Can I just mention, you mentioned the CIG developer being insane. When you go back and watch the Kickstarter video that Chris Roberts put out, or Chris Roberts was, he basically put out, it reminded me of another project. Griffin brought up George Lucas when he talked about the first one, Phantom Menace. Remember how George Lucas was trying to explain his dream and everything like that, and people all around him had their faces looking at like, how in the hell are we going to do all of that? I just imagine the CID developers doing something similar, doing that pitch for Star Citizen, for the two. So yes, they're insane, but they're our type of insane.
Oh no, they're insane in the sense that they really want to do it. And I know people who want to work for CIG because they're doing stuff that's just like, hey, just want to try this. I want to tackle this. I want to see how I can fix this problem.
This goes back to your original question about ambition, right?
Yeah.
When you talked about being too ambitious, I mean, some people may call it that, but that's what ambition is, right? It's going beyond what, is the norm,
Yeah.
that's been produced. And the industry has been producing games and good games, fun games. But to be ambitious enough to say, we're going to take on something that we don't see in gaming, something that's entirely different. And yeah, it's going to be some tech we know we can do. There's some tech that we in theory think we can do. And there may be some things that we just can't do yet. But you're right. That's not if you're trying to build a business on some type of surety, you got to be nuts, right?
Yeah.
To do that, that you're right. Yeah.
And I do want to point this out because I think a lot of people assume that ambition means good. There's going to be people who won't play Star Citizen. Like, Star Citizen isn't going to be the best game in the universe. It's going to be a game that Chris Roberts wants to make it, and a lot of us will enjoy playing it as well. Just because it's ambitious doesn't mean it's going to be revolutionary and change how everything works. It's just like, let alone look at the systems that they're developing and how they're working on it. It's interesting, intriguing, and it's changing, or it's challenging what is done in video games today. But it doesn't mean that suddenly everyone's going to make a Star Citizen. Because
I'm going to push back a little bit on that, because I'm thinking it has been revolutionary in a sense, because in 2012, how many space games did you know was coming out back then compared to now? So and he's already changed the industry in that aspect, in my opinion.
I agree. I mean, like, without Star Citizen, we wouldn't have had Elite Dangerous. Without Elite Dangerous and Star Citizen, we wouldn't have had No Man's Sky. We wouldn't have had the X series being rebooted. We wouldn't have had. We have Homeworld coming out, like a new Homeworld coming out, and that
Homeworld
wouldn't have happened.
3, yeah. I don't think Mass Effect Andromeda. I think they wanted to stop at Mass Effect 3, right? So, yeah.
Almost certainly, because the amount of times I've seen interviews for Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, the amount of time I've seen in interviews where they reference Wing Commander directly. It's like those were Star Citizen backers who were working at, I think, was it I can't remember which one of the COD studios it was, who were fans of Chris Roberts and were like, let's do it. Like, Star Wars Squadrons came out, and that wouldn't have happened without Star Citizen. And it's not necessarily that Star Citizen is, pushing these people. It's just proving that there's a market that people want to play those games. And as a result, we see those games. Like, I don't think we would have seen Starfield without Star Citizen. Starfield wouldn't have probably gotten.
I don't know about that, but yeah.
No. I want to go to something that Paul said here, because I don't know if you saw, did you see the follow-up interview that Todd Howard did after the 45-minute one that they did, the direct?
No.
He did an interview for, it was X State or something, I forget. His channel, I can send you the link for it. But there was something he said where he talked about the development of Starfield. He said that, obviously it was something that they've been wanting to do for a while. They had finally got off the ground. If I'm remembering correctly, they really started working on it in 2016, even though it was in their minds before then, right? So we're talking 8 years, right, for a standalone game. But he said something. He said halfway through it, you realize why people don't make games like this. Yeah. He said, because the amount of work and effort it takes. But he said, he was speaking in retrospect, but he says, there's a point where you realize this is not an easy thing to do. And I'm saying, this is Todd Howard saying this about Starfield. And he's saying, after 8 years, how I got halfway through that sucker and said, I see why people, you don't see this being produced all the time. It takes a lot of work. And so I think with Star Citizen, if he's producing what some people call, it may not be, some people say it's Fallout in space, right? And let's say that we know that they've enhanced the Creation 2 engine. They are going to do some things that are new. But still, after 8 years, it took him to take what they already had in place and produce something else. Here we are talking about a game company that didn't exist, that's trying to produce 2 games, that's trying to also break some ground at the same time. We're 10 years plus in. Some people would say less. I'd say less. The company's been around 10 years, but I'd say real hard development's been 7 to 8 years of where we are right now. The math to me is equal. I don't feel like we're way behind, It's just, I think the anticipation of having those doors opened up so much earlier. No Man's Sky was the same way. They started in 2011. We heard about it in 2013 at E3. So 3 years later, we're waiting, but they have been working on it. They're just now getting No Man's Sky to the place that they wanted it to, and that's still with only 4 people playing. And that's been freaking 12 years later. So the comparison sometimes is saying the Star Citizen's way behind or anything else. That's only because we got a peek in at the very beginning, unlike these other games where we didn't have that as an advantage to ourselves.
I'll also say that the way that CIG is releasing Star Citizen is also slowing it down, because normally you don't have to polish a game for
dealing
release.
with the public. Absolutely. Yeah. They got to still keep a live game going while they're developing, which is a hurdle, and they got to put resources just to do that, where they wouldn't have to do that. You're right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, the reason why I wanted to bring up the revolutionary thing is because I know in the YouTube comments later on, probably
please
people calling
comment
it
down below.
Knight.
Tell us we're in the White Knights. Please, the algorithm would love it.
I just want you guys to know there's only one white knight on the other side of the screen. Okay, the black knights are on this side, just so you know. All right.
Griffin is the one who did it this time, Paul. You saw that, right? It wasn't me this time. No, but my point was we were calling the Star Citizen revolutionary and stuff like that. It's not even out yet. But I mean, we're comparing Chris Roberts to George Lucas, and again, the game isn't out yet. But I just want to say we do have evidence. We do follow the development, so we do have reasons, valid reasons, in our opinion, for making those comparisons. That's what I wanted to say.
Yeah. No, Chris Roberts, I mean, this is for you youngins out there, which probably aren't many because I know my demographics, though recently my demographic has shifted to 18 to 25. 50% of you are watching this already from 18 to 25. So
nice.
Welcome, young folks.
Cool. Nice. You millennial coddler,
not even millennials. These are Gen Z.
Right. You're
Gen
Zs. Yeah, you're Gen Z. That's right.
So who were not even alive, but Chris Roberts was the man that everyone hated in the 90s because he created blockbuster games. Like Wing Commander was the first game that was considered a blockbuster game, that were like they sold
he was young.
Stupid amounts of money. He was in his early 20s, I want to say.
He was in his 20s. Yes.
Yeah, like late teens, early 20s when he did that. To the point where like they didn't know how to produce as much as they could for the demand. Like the technology literally didn't exist when they were making these games, so they had to like often sell them with like graphics cards and soundboards and stuff like that to get everything going.
This was back in the day when you had like floppy disk, you had like 10 to 20 floppy disks for a game. That was unheard of back then.
So like he has always been that kind of George Lucas, Todd Howard. He was a Todd Howard before Todd Howard was around, in terms of like this guy who's just going to say crazy things and make crazy promises. He fell off the face of the earth after Freelancer because he was trying to turn Freelancer into what Star Citizen is, and Microsoft said no. You are over scheduled and behind and way over budget.
Yep.
You know, you're behind schedule and way over budget. You're gone, and that won't have to do movies for a while, but. Chris Roberts over budget and behind schedule? No.
That never happened.
But the point being is like when we make these references, it's because Chris Roberts has already been in that field. He's already been in the wunderkind of gaming technology and stuff like that. So, all right. The last question I'm going to ask, and then we're going to wrap this up and move on to the question answers. I'll start with you on this one, Fast Cart. Now that we've talked about all of this, once Star Citizen is its feature complete, or what do we say? Yeah, feature complete. When it's not content complete, but it's feature complete. Alpha's finished, roll into beta. Do you think they can survive as a game once they start getting into beta? When it's no longer
that's a tough,
like hyping up the next release, hoping the next Star Systems. And when Star Systems being added is commonplace, when all of the gameplay is in somewhat of a final form. Do you think the Star Citizen could still survive?
That's a tough one because, I mean, we have ideas about how the funding model will change between now and then. Because, I mean, they said that they're not going to do concept ships at a certain point. But, they just want to survive on package, the starter package, and stuff like that. So I'm hoping they will survive. Will they survive? I think they will because they'll have cosmetic sales and stuff like that for skins, and people always buy those in droves. So I think that they have a potential to survive. Whether or not they'll probably have to adjust the prices on those cosmetics and stuff like that. But yes, also like right now you could buy Squadron 42 before for like $45, just like a Star Citizen. But eventually the price will change. This is I'm going to say this is what the rumor is. The price for both games will eventually be $60. So $60 for Squadron 42, $60 for Star Citizen. So I think they will survive. And the other thing is they're trying to reach 1,500 developers now, but I think they will reach a point where they start dropping developers, not because they're in financial trouble, because they won't need as many developers as they do now because the game is out or will be out. So yes, I think they will survive. Just a question of what they will have to do in order to survive. In order to survive, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. And for chat's wondering, saying, wait, 1,500? Yeah, that's what they said, that the Manchester studio can hold up to 1,500 people. So minimum CIG will be is 1,500. Of course, they have now 5 studios on 2 continents because they've got Montreal now. So officially, so
and I mean when the Turbulent letter came out, they announced they're at 1,100 now. So they only need another 400.
And we'll probably see more because they'll probably still see even more people because they want to fill up the Manchester studio. So you're probably still looking at more close to 2,000 people when around that time, if they can still afford it to hire those people. Yeah, that's the problem.
Question.
People require salaries, and salaries it takes money. So.
Wait! You mean no one's a volunteer? They're doing it to get paid?
Only the Citizen
Con.
Say. Only Citizen Con volunteers are volunteers, and they're being paid in I don't know, free tickets. I think I don't know.
Free tickets, yeah,
yeah,
free ticket, yeah, one free ticket as far as I know. Not even VIP, just the normal one.
Normal ticket. Griffin, same question with you. Do you think Star Citizen can survive as a game once there's no longer any kind of dreams or hopes kind of going through it? When it's an actual game, the content is in. Do you think it can survive?
Yeah, I think that we kind of have a model already, which I would say is Eve. Eve has its own audience that continues to sustain it. You don't see a lot of you see advertisements. You go on YouTube for Eve, but they've got a group of people that are keeping that game going, and it's been around, like Fast Card said, for 21 years now. I think their anniversary is 2022. Were you sure? I thought their anniversary was 2002. I thought they opened in 2002. Okay, but 2021, whatever the amount of years are. To your Paul, to your point earlier, you talked about this IP, which can obviously expand beyond the persistent universe in Squadron 42. There's been a lot of conjecture about whether things like Theaters of War could become a console game, right? Maybe Star Citizen won't, but maybe there'll be that. Or maybe there'll be some other aspects that they could use from the IP to expand further that will fund the model. Fastcard tossed out the number of $60, but we were just joking around recently that Starfield is coming out at $70. You know, when this came out, we were talking $49.95 back in the day. So what'll be the final price for Star Citizen or Squadron 42? We don't know, but I know it's not going to be $49.95. I can tell you that. There are the things that we've talked about, like cosmetics, things of that nature. Fastcard mentioned the starter packages for people who are coming into the game. Yes, absolutely. I just kind of feel like there's probably going to be something else that will help supplement Star Citizen on a financial end, whether it's the release of the continuing episodes of Squadron 42 or some other aspects of the IP that they expand into other areas. That's fine. But I do think the game will sustain. And my thought is I hope Star Citizen's around just like Eve, 20 years. It's something that's there that we can come back to and play, that they'll put out from time to time. There'll be a big release that comes out. The growth that we were talking about, Paul, about maybe when we were at 10 systems, each system introduces something. Maybe systems come out every 6 months, every 3 months, that slowly build up to the point of 100 systems, so that we do keep coming back, right? As the universe expands, we continue to go further out. We've got 5 races now. Chris Roberts might have 10 races on his whiteboard right now we don't know about. Maybe somebody who's scarier than the Van Duel. There's a whole lot of possibility. We see the same thing with Starfield, right? Starfield says only 10% of their map, but we know that they're doing that because they want to be able to expand into those other worlds and keep the Starfield franchise going. So yeah, it's going to be around. It's not going anywhere. I don't think that, not anytime soon. There's a lot invested here. And I think that they've got a lot of smart people, which we know is much smarter than me, that work for them, who are not looking at Star Citizen based upon this year, next year, 3 years from now, but 5 years, 7 years, and 10 years from now, maybe even 20 years from now.
You're saying that when I was going to say where we've got DJ and Kwaku, DJ's from the Arena Commander team, and Kwaku's the mission lead. One of the mission designers are in chat right now.
Oh, okay.
You said Theaters of War, and I think I think DJ his head exploded. He's just like, what are you talking about? What? No one told me I had to release the consoles. What?
Yeah,
Panic call to Chris at 2:00 in the morning. What did you say?
And just to fact check, I did look it up on Wikipedia. Oh my goodness! Just to fact check, I did look it up on Wikipedia. EVE Online released in May 6th in North America and UK. So yeah, 2003, May 6th.
Okay.
Nice. Okay. To answer the question, can Star Citizen survive after beta? I think it will, but I also think that a lot of people will have to adapt. Because I don't even think CIG fully knows how Star Citizen's going to play by the time beta rolls around. They have an idea, but I don't think they know. And that's what beta's for, because once you get all the features in, then you sit there and go, where are these things that are bumping heads against one another? Does this level make sense? Does this character make sense? Does the lighting bad in this situation? It's really designed to kind of carve out the feel of the game to make it better. For instance, if you're a hardcore PvP meta chaser, you know that this changes every patch. And when beta comes along, it might be changing every couple weeks because they're trying to get that sort of thing down. So,
yeah, point.
Yes. Thank you all for joining us for this discussion.
I was wondering if you're looking at the clock. To determine whether I cut it off now.
Almost exactly at an hour. So we're going to be about that. We're not going anywhere if you're watching this live, and of course, if you're watching the VOD after this fact. But if you are watching this video, this is part 1 of a 2-part collaboration with Soul Citizens, which they'll be going live tomorrow. What's the time that it's happening tomorrow? 9 p.m. Eastern.
8 p.m. Eastern.
8 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah, midnight UTC.
So that'll be at twitch.tv/Soul Citizens, all one word, I believe. Right? Or is it Soul underscore?
Yep.
It's also
Yep.
I put the link in chat.
And so we'll be talking about that as well there. And of course, if you're watching this after the fact from the recording, right above Fastcart's head will be the link to the full VOD if you want to listen to all of the questions and answers. And of course, we have a podcast version that goes out for Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts that you can be listening to as well. Just looking for the AstroPub podcast and you'll find it. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you to Fastcart and Griffin Gaming RPG for coming on and talking to us this week. And like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black. Well, you missed a chat. I muted it just before this because I wanted to make sure. Whenever I say sometime in the black, Fastcart always says something. He always makes
always.
What is that supposed to mean, Paul? What is that supposed to mean?
It didn't go out. Oh, I thought the whole conversation went live.
That's funny.
All right, so I'm gonna use the restroom real quickly. Make sure that all of y'all use the restroom.
Me too.
I'll be back in a minute.
And we'll when we come back, we'll be taking the question and answer sessions from you. So feel free to ask questions in chat. Use the little coin icon bottom left. You click Captain's Table question. You just type your question in chat, and it'll be added to the whole sort of roster. There we go.
I'll be back.
Be right back. All right, I'm back. These two leads spawned whenever their content is mentioned. Listen. Kwaku, all I'm going to say is where's my goddamn box missions or my cargo missions? Bring back my RS1 suits. You got me with gasping weevil eggs, but what about my RS1 suits and Mobby glass computers? And DJ, there's nothing wrong. You're perfect. You're wonderful. You're gorgeous. You're the golden child. I want a nice mesh for them. They're in generic boxes.
I am back.
I'm just coming back too. I was trying to wolf down some food. I went too long without eating today. I get a headache if I don't eat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Wait, so I get Elliot. Where's this? And DJ, you're perfect. Yes, Elliot. That's how this works. I do 100% play favorites. You can spill your drink on me at CitizenCon, all right? That's what you can do, Elliot.
What did I miss?
Oh, I just asked Elliot where the where my like cargo missions are, and I said DJ's perfect. It's like no notes, perfect. DJ is giving me my tonk battles in my theaters of war. That's why he's perfect.
No, I want to know where Paul's great cat Lock DS is, because he's supposed to get one now that he had to redeem us. So I'm still waiting for Paul to get that.
So yeah, what I'm trying to do at the very end is to get Elliot to piss off Elliot so much that I end up in a mission as a a bumbling buffoon somewhere in the lore. This is my secret plan to get into the lore. Insult the mission givers enough, developers enough so that they want to put me in as a spite gift.
I just want to say you fell into my secret plan because my secret plan was to not say anything at the end of the episode and have you say something for me. But I'm disappointed it didn't go out over the air. That's what I miscalculated on.
All right, everyone's back. I think, Griff, you're back, right?
Give me 15 seconds to finish this hot dog.
You're good.
Wait. Is it a double dog?
Nope.
Because I think Meemaw still wants one.
What
People
is?
in chat would get that reference.
I'm confused. There are we spawning CIG developers? Is that what's going on? Is just the CIG developers just coming in? I don't know if Kyrodos is, but I don't know who Kyrodos is. Yeah, so Kyrodos is a CIG member.
Okay, I'm good.
You're good? Okay. So so as we've gone through the break, there are more CIG members showing up. So we have to be nice.
What do we do?
I don't know. Someone said the word out. They're everywhere. They're in the walls.
They're talking about dreams and reality about our game. You guys
Who knew? That's all you needed to spawn the CIG.
Who told them?
It wasn't me. That's what I always say, Griff. It wasn't me.
We need Titan suits to be able to deal with that. That's the answer.
I'm disappointed we haven't seen. In the news about the Titan suit and it's going for the 2 monthly newsletter anymore. Because there's a couple of months they've been appearing. I'm like, yeah, and then nothing now. So
the answer is that it's going to be a showcase somewhere. So they're waiting to put it in there, to sprinkle it in.
CitizenCon?
I don't know. Maybe that's hope.
Don't start that. Don't start that.
Oh, I'm starting a Griffin because I want it.
All right, well, welcome back to the question and answer session with Fastcart and Griffin Gaming RPG of Soul Citizens. Fastcart of the internet, because he's been freaking everywhere.
He predates Soul Citizen. Yeah, he predates Soul Citizens.
So this is the question session when people from chat ask questions, and we do to give our best answers. I'll try to get through all of them, but there are already 22, and I think all three of us would like to go to bed at some point, and I have not eaten yet, so yeah.
Hey, I'm good for 4 hours. I don't know about the rest of y'all. This is a special episode of Three Broke Guys, so yeah, I'm good.
All right, so the first question comes from Maniac, I think, Maniache, who asks, "Hello, I once saw a CIG video about helmets and how the vision when you have them on would be different from each other. Is that still coming or has been shelved?" I think that's been shelved and changed because it doesn't work with the HUD. Though I do think that what's changed is that, and this is based off of the monthly report, that the last I heard, they were experimenting with the idea of attaching MFD elements to your visor in the helmet. So it will, instead of having the different helmets with different protections, have different changes to it, because that was just annoying. I think the idea is that you're going to be able to have more of a control over what you see in the helmet, kind of, like MMO style. But yeah, it was, the problem is like right now, if you want to know why that's the problem, wear one of the thick boy suits and access your MOBA glass. That tells you why that it's not a good idea. Because right now, if you access your MOBA glass with those, it like cuts off your MOBA glass. You can't see half of it, so. Yeah, that was a pretty easy question to answer.
21.
It's not 22. Someone else asked another one. So I'll start with you on this one, Fastcard. Kuro asks, pipe dream question based off the previous Schlitterbahn conversations. Do you think in the distant future, after release, we might see rideable theme parks or water parks?
Rideable theme parks or water parks. I mean, I think we'll see more racetracks. So I don't, maybe make a theme park out of a racetrack, maybe. As far as a real theme park, we don't know what's on Earth or Terra yet. So hope maybe. I don't know. It's a good question.
Griffin, what do you think?
I think they're going to be locations versus a theme park. I know back in the Ben Lesnick days, he talked about, like, for example, vacations where you could go for luxury vacations to relax or something like that. When I think of parks, I think more of like an amusement park. I'm not saying no. I'm just saying I do know that there will be places that you go to be able to do certain things, whether that means introducing a Sata Ball place to do, or like Fast Card said, water park. I don't know. But, we know that there are going to be tours, for example, that will be done in Orison for the space whales. So there'll be activity locations to do things, but it's something that's designed as like a theme park or something like that, the way we view theme parks now. Not sure, but there will be stuff to do.
Chat's asking to be like, tell for non-Texans, what's Schlitterbahn? It's just a water park. It's just a local famous water park here in Texas, Central Texas. It's got a funny name because there's a lot of German names in Central Texas. So, and it.
Go ahead.
What I'll say is the racetracks and a lot of those things were done by CIG developers. If there's a crazy CIG developer who just really loved, I don't know, Roller Coaster Tycoon, and it was just like, I want to redo my childhood dreams of Roller Coaster Tycoon in the game, they might do it in their free time. Because this is CIG developers, we're saying. So, and I wouldn't put it past them. So, like, I'm sure there'll be stuff like that. But yeah, CIG has always said that they want to do specific locations. Like there's the Mars Memorial, where all of the, the memorial to all the original colonists of Mars who died. There's the Banu Friendship Museum in Davian, which is it's on. So there's definitely be like spots that are of interest. And we even have that in Lorville. Like you've got the timeline in the Central Business District where you can go see like those stuff like that for sure. Functional roller coasters, but we'll see.
I mean, a racetrack, the PTV racetrack is almost a roller coaster in itself. So you kind of already have one, I guess. I don't know. Did they keep the loop or they took out the loop? Because I don't know. When they had a loop, right?
They were testing.
So it might be already there.
They were testing.
But I just want to ask you, Griffin. You brought up Sata Ball. I thought Sata Ball was dead. Do you think it would still have a
Sata Ball's not dead? Sata Ball's in lore. It's in lore. It's not dead.
It's in lore, but I'm talking about putting it in game wise.
Why wouldn't they with the band new? I mean, it's one of the big recreation pieces for them. Just because they didn't include it into the testing aspect, there's no reason not to think that they wouldn't try to find some way to incorporate it into the game because of lore.
It's just one of those things where it's like it's not a priority. It won't be a priority until it becomes a priority. And so I don't think it's gone. In fact, now that they have a dedicated Arena Commander team, I wouldn't put it past the Arena Commander team to do experiments with those ideas, especially since the EVA modes are coming from Squad 42 to Star Citizen. That would be a great way of testing the EVA modes with a little EVA gameplay mode, which is what the purpose of that was the original purpose of that mode, gameplay mode in Arena Commander, was to test out EVA, because they were testing out the grabby hands and EVA 2.0.
Oh yes, I remember that.
So, all right. Next question comes from Doc Platypus, who asks, how long do you foresee until we are able to actually do long-term multi-crew where players can occupy beds on other player ships, such as the Carrack? I'll start with you on this one, Griffin.
Yeah, I would say it's just based upon when CIG has the tech together better. And I'll share with you, because we've been doing that already. Our friend Colossal, most of you guys know Sigelian, for example. When the Starfarer got released with its fueling and everything, Sigelian set out into space and decided that's where he's going to stay and live. My friend Colossal takes his Carrack out, he loads it up with everything that's needed, and literally stays in space all the time and only comes in when he needs to refuel. That's about it. And he would invite us to be on his ship with him, and we would log in and out on his ship. So, there's an aspect of that the players can begin doing now. Now, I know that the mechanic has been dopey, so that only the owner can do it now. But before, players could do it, and it was working. So I don't think it's very long off. I think they just got to get that bug fixed again so that the persistence remains for players. But it's not very far off as far as I'm concerned. And I think that players, we always talk about, in EVE, those of you who played EVE and some other games, there was always this thing of having to come back to home base, right? You played, you had to come back to a station. Star Citizen is actually designed so that we're supposed to be living out in space. That means not on a moon or on a planet necessarily, but living in your ship. So this is going to be something that's going to be commonplace for a lot of players, not just because you're in deep space, but you could be anywhere and they won't have to have this feeling of let me hurry up and land in this station so I can log out and get out of the game. The reality is you'll be able to get in your bed no matter where you are, whether it's an Aurora or whether you're in a Carrack, load out, and that's it. I think that's just going to be integral to our gameplay. And I think we're going to get there much sooner it won't be a long time is all I'm saying. I don't think it'll be very long.
Fast Crap?
I'm going to summarize what Griffin just said. I'm just going to say soon TM.
I agree. I think the issue is it was removed because of long-term persistence issues, and it was more of they got to fix PES and they want to make sure it wasn't causing problems, and it's not an essential part of the game. I think they'll eventually do it. I think it's a matter of just getting the PES working properly, and once that's in. So in terms of when, sooner than you think, but probably not tomorrow. So. Next question comes from Northern Trooper, who asks, when or what was your first reality check that Star Citizen will not be coming out until later? 2016 CitizenCon. 2016 CitizenCon.
That's a good answer.
That's when I found out.
Wait a minute. I want to be real specific about the North End. Are you asking about Star Citizen? Or are you asking about Squadron 42? Or are you asking about what? Because I really want to know which one you're asking.
Because he said Star Citizen. He said specifically Star Citizen.
Yeah, he said Star Citizen. I just want to make sure because people usually say that by default, and I'm just kind of curious as which one he meant.
Well, I mean, the thing is that it's not even Star Citizen, like both at that point, because the 2016 CitizenCon was probably one of the worst CitizenCons, and I was there. You were there too, weren't you, Griffin?
Yeah, I was there.
We all were. We all
were there. Yeah.
And ride the word, Muad'Dib. When they did an hour-long presentation on Spectrum, I'm not even joking.
I forgot about that. You're right.
You're welcome.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. And then that holiday live stream, which, by the way, it's 20 seconds. Let me double check. Monday, I'm going to be doing a special stream where I am going to be watching the holiday live stream.
Oh, wait a minute. Now you're stealing ideas. Are you kidding me? I had that on my list to do. Oh, we're going to sit in with you then. We're going to come to watch. We're going to watch.
Yeah,
Monday or Tuesday. I'll do it on Tuesday because that's the 25th. It's Christmas in July, right? The 25th.
I was gonna do that for the holiday.
Yeah,
I still may do it, but
you can still do it.
People have never seen it. A lot of people have never seen it. They've never seen it before. Because somebody asked us just recently. We were talking about. They're like, "Well, what's so bad about that?" We're like, "Oh my God, we got to send you a link." You don't know.
There's a plan that we have, which is someone said to take the holiday live stream, get it transferred onto VHSs, get like a sleeve made for it, and then pass it around at CitizenCon for people to get like the Star Wars holiday specials. So
that's hilarious.
Make copies.
That's hilarious.
For those of you who don't know, the Star Citizen 2016 holiday stream is the Star Wars holiday special of Star Citizen content. It's one of the few videos that CIG deleted from their
YouTube channel. It's gone.
YouTube channel. So
what time are you starting, Paul? Because I want to.
I want to watch.
What time would good for y'all? Because I have all day.
No. We're just gonna watch. We're just gonna tune in.
I was probably gonna do it at like noon or 1 on so like 1 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday.
On which day? Monday or Tuesday? On Tuesday?
Yeah.
I'll be glued. I'll be watching.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Is that not good for you?
No, I've got a financial advisor meeting at 12, but I'll figure it out. Don't worry, I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out.
Yeah, I'll be there.
For me, 2016 was a disappointment, but I'm gonna be honest with you. it was in perspective to Squadron 42. That was kind of why I asked the question, because I remember the vertical slice was the big thing. And that didn't reflect to me about the persistent universe. I was really, because I came out of Eve and stuff. So I've always been big about the persistent universe side of the game, but I started getting hyped about Squadron 42 at that point. And so I went to LA like you, Paul. I went with the anticipation of finally seeing what's this Squadron 42 going to be about. And of course, yeah, you know what happened there. So
yeah. The rest is history.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a different kind of different answer to this one. I'm thinking 3.0 taking a year to come out. That's when I realized, okay, this thing may be taking longer than we expect.
Yeah, that was a big one.
I would say that's the secondary one would be 263, the year of one patch. And people saying, oh well, 317 was you youngins don't understand. You had patches. Yes, they were small patches, but you don't understand. There was a year where they didn't update anything.
Nothing.
There was no
not
updates.
The launcher, not the game, nothing.
Nothing. And there was no balances. There was no bug fixing. There were just nothing for a year.
And the one person I do feel sorry for is poor Disco Lando. Jared Huckabee. He grew that 3.0 beard. He kept his promise. He said he wouldn't save till 3.0 is out, and he kept his promise. Bless his soul.
He was looking like Yukon John by the time that sucker got done. I mean, it was crazy.
Who knows who that is?
It was crazy.
But yeah, so I would say I think that was 2017. It may have been 2016. I can't remember exactly when that happened, but I just remember that, like, I think it was 2016. It may have been 2018 when CIG straight up said we're going to charge for CitizenCon, charge to watch.
Yeah, remember that 2018. Yeah, I remember that one.
So that was different though, but that was the point where I'm just like, all right, go fuck yourself. Like at a certain point, you just got to be like, all right, step back and check your own like let's get back to reality, Chris. All right, let's step back a little bit.
Somebody
and
lost
stop
their mind
at
CIG for just a few minutes. Somebody lost their mind for a few minutes, and the community said, "Are you?" And it changed back. It spun around real quick.
It was the one time in Star Citizen's history where every single person in the community just said, "Fuck yourself, hell no." And
I was a bit more mild. I was more like a heck no rather than a hell no. But yeah, I was still no.
Yeah.
But so what was your reaction to the $200 VIP? Your initial reaction when you first saw the price?
Wait. We got all these other questions. You
I know, but just quick. Hopefully it's quick.
Yeah. My first thought was it's not worth it. I mean, when they said it was 2 days, that was the big one. It's like when we found out it was $200, I was like, yeah, that makes about sense. And because, for those of you who don't know, one of the biggest anime conventions of the year takes place in that LA Citizen Con. I believe it actually was TwitchCon was in that same place as well one year. So the LA Convention Center. So like it's not a small convention center. So if they're getting a convention center that size, it's expensive. So they're going to have to keep the prices up.
The only reason why I asked because we had that reaction for the $20 viewer ticket. So I just wanted to have a similar reaction for the $300. That's all.
Are you talking about the $300?
No. About the $20 viewer ticket? Even the white knights were barking. There's no comparison between the $20 ticket and for viewing that show.
What everyone said was just give us a goodie swag pack that you're going to give to the regular people for like $5, and people will buy like 7 of them. And they're like, oh, that's right. And they ended up making more money off of that than they would have on the $20 like viewing experience. Like, you know. Yeah, and the tickets don't pay.
The whole reasoning was because it was so expensive to put together the production and everything for. But yeah, we saw that worked out. But yeah, okay.
Yeah. All right. Next question comes from Gin and Tonic, who asks, why are we comparing Star Citizen and Starfield? You're going to make a comparison. It should be Starfield and Squadron 42. Yes and no. I'm of the opinion that you can't compare Squadron 42 and Starfield, because that would be like comparing Dark Souls to Kingdom Come Deliverance. Like, they're not even in the same genre. Like they're not really. The only thing that they're similar is that they're both single player games. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're both
Skyrim or something. It's not. They're not.
Yeah. They're both single player games, and they both are vaguely medieval aesthetic. That's kind of the same thing with Squadron 42 and Star Citizen. Squadron 42 is not a RPG, open world RPG. It's a Wing Commander game with like semi-open world branching elements. But the reason why you compare them, I'll just say this, is that because people will do it anyways. People have and will do it. And it has more to do with the fact that Squadron 42, that people are looking for something to give the same experience that they want from Star Citizen from a game. And that's the reason why they get compared like that. That's all. It's a bad comparison technically. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Delight stole my answer, because I was going to say you can't compare the two, because Squadron 42 isn't even close to being coming out yet. So
we don't even know what it is.
Make a comparison to something coming that out.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I had this. Paul, I hope I don't repeat anything you said, because I was halfway through. My daughters were leaving for the Beyonce concert, and you were saying goodbye.
Oh, tell her to have a good time.
So yeah. I did. Yeah, the comparison, when we were talking about that earlier, and I said that there are two arguments. Some people say you can't compare, some people say you can. And I think that's because of the genre more than anything, is space storytelling. But I agree. I think if there was something, it would be Squadron 42, but we don't have Squadron 42. I think this goes back to the hunger and the desire that we want as gamers. And like we said, people did those same comparisons with No Man's Sky. They've done it with other games as each one comes out. There's always this comparison of what's going to blow what out, what's going to be better. My response,
killer.
Yeah, my response about Starfield has been, and Paul, I know we've always said this about, we welcome more games into the field, right? The more competition there is, the different varieties of games, because everybody plays something different, right? It all makes the competition is good. But I think what I've said about Starfield is this: if you enjoy Bethesda games, if you enjoy Fallout, if you enjoy the way their games have been designed, you will probably very much enjoy Starfield. My concern is that people who play Star Citizen, who go to a Bethesda game and they don't know how those games play, I think those people may not like Starfield that much. They may like it. They may say, oh, wow, this is something different. But if people are going to Starfield with the expectation of what Star Citizen is, I think they're setting themselves up for a big fall. Starfield's games are, Bethesda does a certain way of storytelling and doing their games, and I think that they do it well for what they do. So, that's my comparison between them.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, and I do not understand the competition, because since Starfield has been announced, I've been hyped for it. I've been excited for it. And me and Space Tomato are like, yes, a space RPG. We want to play a space RPG. And a lot of people coming onto our chats being like, well, it's not Star Citizen. Star Citizen's going to die. I'm like, I want to play both. Why are you so angry? Please let me just play my Starfield. And I just released a lore video on a breakdown of the kind of the basic lore of Starfield and what it exists and stuff like that. And so, I'm excited.
Don't you know you're only allowed one space game in your lifetime? That's it. Just one. And it's got to be Star Citizen. It can't be anything else. No. Oh, Don, I forgot. I didn't write out what I wanted to say. But anyway, go ahead.
All right. Well, I was going to just in general, I think that's a good point as well. I think a lot of people make the comparisons. I think it comes back to, and this is going to sound weird, but you try to remember back to when you had little money. Remember, you're a little younger. You had a budget, and you couldn't purchase but one game every month or so. And when people are making the decision of, I got to buy a game this month, people want to rationalize that decision of what they're buying. And if they're going to be buying, if their one game is going to be Starfield, that has to be the best space game in the market. And if it's not, then they'll feel bad. So they have to defend it rationally and vigorously defend that. Or same with Star Citizen, vigorously defend it because it's don't want to have invested in the losing party of those sorts of things. So, but Anyways,
And that's relevant because this show is titled Three Broke Guys. So yeah,
Three Broke Guys. I thought you said something about us being gray, three gray guys, because we're all gray.
I mentioned that earlier when you said about us older guys, the young whippersnapper stuff.
It's better than my alternate title, 2 3/5 guys. But we got 2 black guys in here, so we can't do that. So I guess it's going to be 1 6/5.
God, I had to
hurry up with the next question.
I had to poke the tiger, didn't I? I had to poke the tiger.
Please go to the next question.
That was all your fault. That's completely your fault.
Northern Trooper asks, in your opinion, what are the highs and lows of CIG absorbing turbulent? I'll start with you on this one, Fast Cart.
The highs and lows. I don't see any. Well, I guess the low is it'll take time to train the developer, to train the developer in order to to meet the standards of how CIG does things. So it'll take longer for them to get up to speed, but once they get up to speed, they'll push stuff out faster. That's my hope. And so yeah, that's the high and low in my opinion. Real quick,
Griff.
None, because their investors didn't feel there was none. CIG already had partial ownership of the company. The relationship is there. They've been around since 2013. They've been around a long time. If it was from a financial business side of the coin, if there was some reason why they shouldn't have done it, they could have not done it. I think it was a win-win for both sides. And as for us as players, I think it's a win-win for both sides. Some of you, like I'll do Paul's old man speech. Many of you may not have been around back in 2013, 14, when there were multiple subcontracted companies that were working for CIG. And what a Holocaust, well, I shouldn't say that, that's not the word I want to use. What a horror story that was in certain aspects of their development. They eventually reeled a lot of things under their umbrella. And now that they brought this in, it's just one more thing as far as I'm concerned. So I'm happy with the merger. I think evidently their investors are, and they are too. So they've had good relationship with them.
Yeah, I think the answer is the reason why they decided to bring them under the umbrella is likely because it makes it more financially stable for them to pull them together. And that's it. Because they've even said nothing changes. They're still working with the same clients they were working that weren't CIG. They're just now working as a CIG subsidiary. So there's really no downs. It's all better. It's all improvements for that company just in general, and for as a community base, the benefit is now we might actually get to see CitizenCon Montreal. Now they have no excuse. Yes. They have no excuse. Yep. CitizenCon Montreal is going to be a thing at some point. So,
yeah. The question is, will it be next year or will it be after Europe? So yeah, that's the question.
Well, I already know. I've heard the rumors the rumors circulating that next year is going to be Manchester, even though it's supposed to. No. Yes, it's supposed to be Frankfurt, but it's going to be Manchester. That's what the rumors I've been hearing.
Don't even go down that.
Yeah, I'm not going.
You're going down that rabbit hole. Don't even go down that rabbit hole.
I got my tinfoil hat, baby. Yeah, it's supposed to be Germany, but it's going to be Manchester.
I hear you.
Yeah. So, all right. Next question. Someone asked a quick one.
See what you did in chat? Chat is you started a fire.
Yes.
Nope.
Good question is, have you paid any attention to RP communities in games like GTA? Do you see Star Citizen as a future GPA? I am a secret roleplay gamer. I used to play a lot on Red Dead Redemption RP. I never really did GTA RP because I'm not but I've done ARC RP and other things like that. I get in and out of it a lot. So yeah, I can see it in Star Citizen, but this is a question just asking direct to me. But that's going to be it's going to have to wait for a while until private servers become a thing. So next question comes from Gin and Tonic, and I'll ask you this one, Griff. Scope creep. What other than fully realized planets and base building, which was a direct outgrowth of Planetech, what is Star Citizen pursuing that wasn't in the original vision? Fully Realized Planets was actually in the original.
Yeah, it was. It
was just an after release goal. They moved that to an after release goal. So
yeah. That's a tough question to answer because, back in the day, we don't hear people talk about scope creep as much now. But back in the day, you used to hear that all the time.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say I'd say from like 2015 through 2017, there was this constant thing of saying, oh, this is just scope creep when things would come up. There's a couple of things that nullify that statement to me. One is that none of us know what the full whiteboard, what the whole map is for what Chris Roberts wants to put out. All we know is what he has shared with us, what CIG has shared. There's a lot of stuff that they don't share. Now, in the midst of the statement of transparency of the company, if this is my personal guess, y'all, please don't write this down as Bible. Mm-hmm. If we're getting 60%, 50 to 60% of everything, that's a lot to me. There's a lot of stuff we just don't know where Chris wants to go with this game in the development process. So when something does pop up, and I'll give you an example, it's just something that we all can relate to. We may be sitting around waiting for our fast cart, our brand new Merchantman. What year was that fast cart? Brand new Merchantman was announced when?
2013.
All right. And then all of a sudden the Gatak comes up out of nowhere and we say, oh, scope creep. Where'd that come from? They didn't have that on the list. We don't know where the Gatak was introduced in. We really don't know. But there's a feeling that, they're skipping over what they did in 2013. They're producing this stuff that nobody knew about, blah, 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 and there's scope creep. I don't think necessarily that's the case. Now, the only time I think that there was, and Paul, maybe you've got some insight on this. The only time I think that the direction may have changed in some meaningful way was what Fast Cart mentioned earlier. Those of us who were around back in the day, we remember seeing the demonstration of when the Andromeda, the Connie Aquila, was used to land at ArcCorp for the very first time. Mm-hmm. And we remember when we saw that, we were excited. We were cheering. The ship comes up to orbit over ArcCorp, and they make a call saying we'd like to land. The EDLS, whatever system was called, said, okay, prepare to land. And what you were supposed to do was sit back and watch as your ship was brought in to land at Area 18. And then you would be able to get off your ship. Well, you had no control over that. That was supposed to be all automated. Well, then, as Fast Cart mentioned, one of the devs worked on their own time, came back and said, hey, I think I may have created something that you guys want to look at. We all have heard this story before. The next thing you know, we found out that you could now land without loading screens and land. And now CIG said they were going to do it later, but it came much faster. And because it came faster, to me, I think that definitely made us go back and look at what we were doing now and saying, hey, we've got this technology now. Do we need to change some things? Do we need to modify some things? Or are there some things we can do now that we didn't think we'd be able to do or we were going to put on the burner for later? So to me, that was a turning point in relation to the tech design of the game that may have shifted some gears for some things. But do I believe that there's been some scope creep? There may have been some things that they said, we could do this, we could add this and tweak things here. But I don't think anything that has changed the project. I mean, really changed it in a significant way. But that's just me personally, though. So.
I'll go on, add a little bit more to that, Griff. I think that planetary tech is the reason why Star Citizen is taking longer. Because they had built a bunch of ideas and they were going to make a bunch of things and they were going to, and then Planetech happened, and that's the reason why Squadron 42 got delayed. It's the reason why Star Citizen is longer, because if you look back at what they were working on 263, you could see a lot of the things that have been starting to work on now in the last 2 years were what they were working on then. They put a hold on that so they could get back to doing stuff for. And I think the reason why is pretty clear, is that they didn't have an idea of what planetary landing would look like. And now that they had this tech, they're like, we need gameplay. Where is this gameplay? We have to invent gameplay, which we never had before. And so Squadron 42 had to get an entirely new gameplay loop added to it, which is nothing like it before, which means that they had to go back and so. But
and let me throw this in. Let me throw this in too, because we've been talking about Starfield.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to make the comparisons, but I am trying to make a little bit of comparison. Those of you who've been following Starfield's development and hearing how they're creating, being able to be around on planets is a little bit closer to maybe what Star Citizen would have been doing. The idea of where Star Citizen is doing it is in a different space than Starfield's doing it. So just understand that And again, remember what I said, what Todd Howard said earlier, halfway through the project, he said, now I see why nobody tries to do this stuff. It's tough to do the technology that they're trying to do.
So I just want to say I'm sorry that I keep interrupting people. I was on Yacht Club Wednesday, so it took me to get a word in edgewise. So I'm trying to jump in. I'm trying to get out of that. So my bad. But yeah, so Griffin mentioned the 2014 Citizen Con. Yes, and it was filled with loading scenes. And then later on, like Griffin said, we remember that People to Planet demonstration that they had the video on. That was the result of that, and I thought that was great. Like at the time, we were like blown away. That was the next big thing. Like People to Planet, like whoa, they can do that now. So that was very impressive. But back to the original question, to talk about scope creep. When the funding goals were still increasing after every milestone was met back in 2012 and 2013, people might have thought back then that was scope creep. So that eventually came to an end at 65 million. But I'm not sure if that's because people complained about scope creep or that was there was a plan. I don't know about that, but I know they eventually stopped because but a lot of people were complaining about scope creep back then.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's because of the expansion. Like a lot of things you'll hear people say is scope creep. Things like FPS battles, like that was always planned. Like FPS fighting and boarding ships was always part of the plan. It's just more of the scale. It's not really scope creep as much as it's, as I like to say, bloat. It's not scope creep, it's scope bloat, because it started off bloated and now it has to actually deal with that problem.
Yeah.
So
fair enough. Yeah.
And again, I can't overemphasize the fact that even with all the information we have, the thousands of hours of video, the website, and everything else, we still don't know everything as backers. We don't know everything.
And didn't people complain about transparency from CIG? I'm of the opinion that CIG is transparent enough because we have so many hours of stuff, but some people will always want more.
Yeah. Well, it's another thing that I think there's a myth out there that Star Citizen is hiding, CIG is hiding a bunch of things and not showing us. It's like if CIG has something that they're doing, they talk about it because they can't shut up about it because they like doing it because people are passionate.
But they're also a business. But they're a business, Paul. They don't have to. It'd be foolish to tell everything, right?
Well, no,
I mean, seriously, right? I mean, it'd be foolish to tell everything. There are other industry people paying attention to what's going on.
Yeah.
You know, this whole idea of we need to know everything.
No,
no, they're a business.
the point being, like, if they're not talking about it, it's not working. Like, it's not worth talking about it. Like, if they're talking about it, it's something that they're working on that's going to be being released. Like that, but there's not like this secret, shadowy cabal, like a vault somewhere where Chris Roberts can pull open and pull out content
that you know of.
Yeah, Like that's what I mean. Like the whole like, oh well, when this is released, suddenly we'll see a bunch more stuff released. It's like, no, there's not like we don't have content waiting somewhere for X feature to come in because the game is going to be so broken or different from the time that feature gets added that they couldn't use the original feature. See Theaters of War as an example. Theaters of War was in a state that was more complete, and now it's completely changed. So now they have to knock off the rust and fix all the little problems so that they can connect it to the new systems they created to make it more better. So, you know.
But to be fair, they are hiding some stuff from us because they want to present it to us at CitizenCon. So that's not really hiding. They're just delaying the reveal, per se.
By the way, your good friend HC Vertigo has dropped some folks in here for you.
Hey, HC Vertigo.
The Sultan, the Sultan of Stanton. Yeah, the Sultan of Stanton. The Stanton Sultans of... Yeah.
The Sultan of Stanton.
The Salton. The Stanton Sultan. Yeah.
All right.
Love it.
Oh.
All right, next question.
I forgot to tell that for Paul. So I do have, this is Jurassic World Dominion, like I promised. So my new name is Jurassic Dominion. So
because you've got the T-shirt on and it's black, and you know, that's how that joke came out. Someone asked a question. Your name is now whatever you're wearing, the color of the shirt you're wearing, and whatever's next to you, and without hesitation, Fastcart goes, Black Jurassic, and we all lost it. We all lost it. Like, what? And he's like, and he just holds up a copy of
Jurassic,
of Jurassic World, and it was just like, I have Jurassic World, but all right. Next question comes from Jondon25, who asks, do you think there will be real consequences for CIG and the backer funding model if once 4.0 server management releases, they don't truly pick up the development pace?
What? Do that again?
So the question is, do you think that CIG is going to lose money if after 4.0 is released, we still see kind of a slow development, or we're not seeing, a new system every couple of months, or we're not seeing new, like AI developing? We're not
I don't
seeing,
know.
like,
That's a tough one. Griffin?
I would say that if that were to happen, I don't see that happening. That's the only thing I can say about that. Paul mentioned this earlier. He talked about what it was like back when we were in 2.6 going into 3.0. Mind you, it was a different group of people, a different demographic of folks that were in it at that time. But that year was tough. And I think that the position is very relative. It's very easy for us who were around back then to say, you guys don't know what tough is, right? Mm-hmm. But if you came into the generation where patches came in twice a year versus the group who get them quarterly now, you're going to feel differently about the development process. So for me, even when patches are late, I'm fine, because I remember when we waited a year or 6 months or 8 months for a patch to come out. But if you came in the generation of where patches come out quarterly and you look forward to that and it doesn't come out, well, your disappointment level might be in a different space than mine is. So I can't see that, whether it's 4.0 or server meshing, whether it's Vulkan, whatever. I think that once they get past the technology hurdles, then things such as features and gameplay, those are not inhibited. But until those hurdles get passed, I think that's something that we just have to deal with.
It's important to note that a lot of the technology hurdles are just the major hurdles, like 4.0 hurdles. And a lot of that stuff that CIG wants to add is being worked on for Squadron. The new movement systems, the new EVA system, the master modes, the AI systems, everything that you've seen showed off at like the Squadron 42 section of the last of CitizenCon. All of that stuff requires 4.0 to be out. So when 4.0 comes out, you'll shortly see most of those go in there, and a lot of those are already in the process of being developed right now. If you look at the monthly report, the new movement system is being incorporated, which allows you to kind of like grapple onto ladders or ledges when you're kind of doing stuff. And also the EVA system, it's actually completely changing how you move, how the movement system in game, because right now when you roll onto your back, you have 3 states. You have laying down, rolling on your back, and then you roll over, and you have to kind of like tap to do the full roll. They're using the kind of Superman kind of EVA mode as the basis for the. But I am frozen.
You are.
You're in a very classic pose right now. Everybody, fast car. Let's do his pose. He's in this real thoughtful kind of.
I'm in that Renaissance pose.
We should just screenshot that pose you're in. You were definitely in your cosmic librarian mode at that point. You were like, to be or not to be. That's how you were looking there for a moment. You know?
But like that whole Superman kind of EVA pose is going to change, because that's kind of like how you're going to be laying down now. They're using a lot of that aspects in there as well. So the I don't think there's as much of a concern about new content coming out once 4.0 comes out. I think it's more how fast are the turnaround going to be. And I think what really is determined is when is 4.0 coming out and when is Squadron coming out. Because this is my tinfoil hat. This is not anything that's backed by actual saying, and everyone else is going to be like, Paul, you're snorting the hopium, and fine, I am if I am.
Wow. But okay.
I got to use that one. I like that one.
Yeah, right.
But I don't think that we will see too much of a difference at this point between the release of 4.0 and Squadron 42. I think we're probably 6 months to a year in the difference. So if Squadron 42 is out, a lot of those features that were being added to Squadron 42 will be features that are available to be moved into Star Citizen by that point. So if that happens, then a lot of those features we've been waiting on, like bounty hunting and more extensive like HUDs and all those sorts of things. All those things will be ported back over to Star Citizen by that point. And like that stuff will be more interesting for people coming in. And it's really hard, but it is hard to sit here and go, well, what if? It's like, I don't know what's going to happen. I once said if Star Citizen wasn't out by 2020, I wouldn't be interested in Star Citizen. I'm still here, so I couldn't tell you. So
how did that what is that pie called? How did that crow taste, Paul? That's what I'm wondering. How did that crow taste?
That crow taste? It tastes good. Tastes good. But you know what tastes even better? The sweet, sweet smell of vindication when I said at the very beginning of the year that this was the year of Theaters of War and Arena Commander, and no one believed me.
Oh, okay.
I said that in January.
I remember you did say that.
I said that in January. I ran around. I was like, I'm putting I'm going to make this bold prediction. And you know who was right? Lorstradamus. Lorstradamus was correct.
But I will say I am bothered by one thing you mentioned early on, Paul, but you going to say master mode with both of us, me and Griffin on? Really?
Oh,
master
no.
mode?
Oh, God. Oh. Blame CIG, not me. Blame CIG, not me.
I'm blaming you for not asking the next question fast enough. Go ahead. That's what I'm blaming you for.
All right, next question comes from Gin and Tonic, who asks, given the Star Citizen releases, that Star Citizen releases, and it releases prior to being fully realized, what do you consider the minimum viable product? We already answered that, I think. Because Griffin, you asked that question, like, what would you think is that? So I think we already answered that, which is like the 5 systems, how many systems need to be released, that kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
And stability.
Yeah. Bug fixes. It's got to be reliable. I mean, bugs will always happen. You will never have a bugless video game. That'll always happen, but you know, just minor stuff. They have to switch from AUEC to UEC. That has a definitive release. True, but they can still do UEC and still do wipes and kind of like that sort of thing if they wanted to. That's a little different. Make a bottom line prediction. How many systems will be in the game when we transition from AUEC to UEC? Bonus points for naming the systems.
I'll go back to where we were.
I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say the systems. Stanton, Pyro, Nyx, Castra, and Magnus
Magnus, yeah.
With the release of Terra being the one with the patch they go from U to UEC, the pair release.
This is my hope. If you place one of those systems or both of those or two of those systems with Soul and Terra, that's my hope.
I think Soul will be the release. I think Soul will be the 1.0. They'll have Soul done, and that'll be like their release. I think Terra is the beta system. I think Terra is the cap of beta.
Some people tossed in what I was thinking about, but I wasn't sure about it where it is on the map. But they mentioned Odin, and I'm only mentioning that because of Squadron. Do you think that would have to be a part of it?
Yeah, okay. It's got a jump point from Nyx. There's a Nyx. Okay. There's a jump point from Nyx to Odin. So.
Okay, gotcha.
Some board says elevators that don't kill you. Yeah, that has to be unreleased.
But it's also important to note that all of those systems I've mentioned, 2 of them are already being worked on, plus there's Odin. Castra is 1 planet, and that's it, and 1 landing zone. That's it.
That's not a big deal.
Magnus is 1 landing zone and 1 planet, and then the rest of it is just kind of dead. They might spruce it up a little bit more, and of course Odin is going to be building for Squadron 42. So like you have to remember that Stanton is weird. Stanton is weird.
But Terra and Soul will probably be the hardest. So I'm expecting those to be the last.
Yeah, I expect Terra to be like the beta. Like when they announce beta, like. We're not wiping. We're done with beta. They'll release Terra as that standing point because that'll be the start point. A lot of people go there. It's easier for them to kind of visualize. And then I think the release will be when they release Soul as like hey, we're done. We're completed with the systems we initially wanted to do. So, yeah, Stanton being weird is why they did Stanton first because there's 4 landing zones and 4 planets. So. Do you all want to make your bold decisions, or are you good?
About what?
about what planets would be the planets in?
Oh
for
no,
beta?
I agree with I agree with the list you gave personally.
Okay.
Yeah, I had a soul into it, but I'm probably wrong. So yeah, I'm fine with that.
Well, the only problem with Soul is you'd have to have the systems that lead up to Soul. So you'd need to have like
get there.
You need to have Davian in. You'd need to have like 2 or 3 other systems to be able to connect Stanton to Soul. It's a
Okay.
I think you have to have Nexus. You'd have have.
They could just have a shortcut. Are we talking
they
about
could just
launch, or are we talking about beta?
Well, because what we were saying earlier was like beta is going to be a soft launch. You know, like they'll stop wrapping. So
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah. And they could also, chat's right. They could cheat it, and you're right. They could have a.
That's what I'm thinking. They could
stop.
cheat it.
Fast Card is dreaming. Let's stay with reality. That's what this whole show's about. Stop dreaming and go with the reality.
Ground yourself.
Back to life. Back to reality.
Well, I will also mention this reminds me of there was a leak of them doing a jump point from freaking Hurston to Microtech, and I was like, that doesn't make any sense even in testing to have it. It's like, but it's in the files. I'm like, I don't care. There's no way that's going to happen. You're wrong. Maybe there was for testing, but there's no way they're going to put that in game because it would just confuse people.
Don't say no way.
It hasn't happened yet. So, Northern Trooper asks, do you think CIG will follow suit with today's games and use any type of seasonal game / battle passes? Fast Cart, do you think we're going to see battle passes, paid battle passes?
I think there may be something for episode 142, but we'll have to see. That if that's going to be a thing, it'll be for 142. Other than that, probably not, in my opinion.
Griff?
I'm not seeing it, but it's hard to say for me.
I don't think it's in the business model. Like their business model doesn't support something like battle passes. They already have something similar to that, which is the subscription system. I imagine the subscription system expanding to support more in-game activities, but
I don't know. I mean, the subscription system is specifically for like ISC and SEO and stuff like that. So I don't know if they're gonna change that.
Yeah.
I mean, they can obviously, but yeah.
It's a system that they know that works, and people buy it for to get access to PTU early PTU waves, and they get gear every month, so and like that's the thing. So it's evolving. So, the Gin and Tonic asked, "What were you eating? What is that? What were you eating there, Griffin?"
That I was eating?
Yeah.
Well, during the show earlier, my wife went to Portillo's and picked up some food for me. So I was eating some fries earlier, but then I went on break. I choked down one hot dog. Second one's still sitting here because we had to start the show. So I'll get that later.
We're gonna go through to make sure he doesn't eat a cold hot dog. All right, that's what we're gonna do.
So we have a microwave. Don't worry, we have a
Put it in the
microwave.
microwave.
We'll be fine.
All right, Big Black Gaming asks, will we have VR at quote unquote release, and will Star Citizen be a reference VR experience? I don't know what a reference VR experience is, so you may have to explain what that means, Big Black. But
Something that everyone else references. I don't know, or maybe like a top tier or something like a premiere VR experience. Maybe that's what they meant.
Yeah, I don't know if that's also a term in game VR gaming is like depending, because I know there's like you sit down and you have an experience, and then also like there's the movement around when you can you have to like jump move or whatever. So I don't know how that works.
Yeah, there's interesting because like for those of us who have other gear that we use, Toby and stuff like that, which gives a great experience within the game. I've got VR, but VR is still in the process of becoming, for lack of a better term, mainstream, right? I mean, it's still very niche. And I'm not even sure if they offered it in Star Citizen. Is it worth putting all that tech and work in right now? Because I'm not sure what percentage of the gamers that play Star Citizen would want to play it in VR. Elite Dangerous was beautiful in VR, but I still spent maybe 50% of my time outside of VR playing it. But it was also limited, right? There was no walking around. You're in your cockpit, right? Which was no big deal. But the whole idea of movement and everything else in VR, I'm not sure how CIG is going to pull all that off in the world that they're creating. It'll be a task for them to do it.
Yeah, BBG basically said what I was thinking.
Yeah.
The VR experience, one would show others what VR is like at its best. So yeah, Premier VR experience. So
What do you think, Pascal?
maybe, I don't know. I get motion sick, so VR is not the thing for me. But I can appreciate how other people are into VR. I wonder what the percentage is who people who do play VR in Star Citizen. I don't know if it's high or low compared to other games. But as far as Premiere, I don't think so because CIG doesn't have a publisher behind it. They're self-published. So without that, I'm not sure how they can get on that unless they like pay someone a lot of money to get on that list, which I don't think they'll do, but we'll see.
I know from firsthand accounts or from like secondhand accounts that there are a lot of VR enthusiasts who work at CIG, and we know that the teams that are working on the Vulkan integration, they love VR. Like they are absolutely down bad for that, and they want it in Star Citizen. So will we have VR at release? We'll have VR before release. It'll almost certainly, even if it's like not fully supported, it'll be some way of they'll have it in there. But as like a reference VR experience, I don't know if CIG is going to solve the movement problem. I don't think anyone can solve the movement problem right now. Anyone who has played a VR, I have a release version of the first Oculus. You were really limited to your movement in where you are. If you try to move anywhere else, it becomes difficult because you have to jump, and you can get a lot of it makes you really dizzy and nauseous if you're because you're moving and your body's not actually moving. So,
if anyone can, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say there is a Star Wars game out that's out right now. I've like you said, I've progressed through the different versions. Someone else mentioned, I think Gin and Tonic or someone said he's been through 4 or 5 iterations of VR. In the Quest one, in the Star Wars one, you actually can physically move through the universe, but it's a small world. It's a very small world. If we're talking about just remaining in a cockpit where you decide to do that for flight, I could see it happening. But like you said, Paul, physically moving through the world, big task, hugely big task as far as I'm concerned. So I'm not sure, but we'll see. You know, like you said, they are fans of VR. They sure are, because they've talked about, and those of us who remember back in the day, there was a time where you could fudge your way into a VR version of Star Citizen, but it was tough.
I mean, there's
People can do it now.
picture of Chris Roberts with a VR
I haven't done
set.
it recently. Can you still do it?
Yeah.
You can? Oh, really?
Oh,
okay.
It's so much easier now than it ever was. You said it was Chris.
okay.
There is a picture of Chris Roberts with a VR set doing the sticks.
Right.
Okay. So
I was gonna say, if anyone can solve the VR motion sickness problem, I think Apple, because it'll be the Apple Vision Pro.
Oh God,
I'm trolling.
The one that's $2,000.
You sure are trolling.
Let's move on.
$3,500 troll. You're right about that.
Hey, for $3,500, better solve it.
Zalea Official asks, as we get closer to Squadron 42 release, do you guys think that CIG should move their monetization tactics, remove ship sales except for pre-orders, more cosmetics? The current monetization model isn't viable for an MMO in the future. I mean, I think they should.
I mean,
they won't.
They took off 2042.
Yeah.
Already, so.
Yeah, you can't even buy it.
You were going to say the same thing? You were going to say the same thing?
Well, no, I was just going to say that they'll never change it. Like, it makes them too much money. Like, they'll do pre-orders. They'll do new ship sales. They'll still sell ships in game. Like, unless it absolutely hurts the in-game economy in a super negative way, I don't think they'll move away from it because it makes them too much money. So,
here's a question: Do you think they'll stop selling UEC? Because they don't sell AUC. They do sell normal UEC.
Yeah.
So I was wondering, do you think they'll stop selling those?
I'd hope they would, because it's just, I know the argument for it. It requires so much work on their end to price it appropriately. They're going to have to price the UEC based off of a sliding scale, like it was an actual currency,
like real currency,
like a real currency, in order to keep it up with the market prices. And that's
UEC could be the new Bitcoin. Yeah.
It'd be more like its own international currency. Like it would be. They'd have to do it like that because the in-game market would have to swap with it. So I think there's too many problems with it, but we'll see how that works. Because
I would love to talk with you later, because we've been talking about that in relation to Star Atlas with Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, how's that going to really impact? I don't know how they're going to work around that. I don't know how they're going to work around when crazy stuff happens in the market, all types of stuff. I'm really curious about that.
Yeah, it's a theory, you might believe. Oh, not Bitcoin, but yeah, it's for them. But yeah, I don't know how that's going to work necessarily for Star Citizen. I don't see them changing until they have to. What do you think, Griff?
We know they're going to be starter packs. That much we do know. We know that CIG said there will never be a subscription to the game. That's what they say. But there has to be revenue generation. And again, I mentioned it earlier. Paul, you mentioned it. Their franchise for Star Citizen money can come from a lot of different ways other than the ones that we're seeing right now. Will they continue to do concept ships? Will they do some type of just annual sale? Maybe it'll just be once a year during maybe IAE. That's the one time where you can get a ship for spending money. And if they did do that, people would still spend money, regardless of whether you can work for ships in game or not. I don't think that that's going to change anything as far as the players go. All these random sales that we get right now, those may reduce. But I think that to Paul's point, they make money selling ships, regardless of what people think about it, whether you like the model, the marketing. It doesn't. The books say that they make money selling ships. And we're 197 out of what's supposed to be 250, so we still got more ships
we still got quite a few. You know what they could do is change the model so that instead of buying a ship at a small reasonable price, start selling ships for like $5 million. That way, only certain people can buy them. Griffin knows what I'm talking about.
He's being funny.
All
right, Paul, keep going, or else you're going to get another joke.
The next question comes from Electric Traveler, who asks, will there be more new planets or more new plants that have green, warm areas for exploration? Something to visit with scenery to explore. Yes.
Yeah,
definitely.
We don't know when, but yes.
Don't ask when. Don't ask when.
It's called green in the Ellis system. That's all you need to know. It's where the Murray Cup in Arena Commander takes place. It's there. So, next question comes from Akuma Tenshi Kuro, who asks, how likely is it that CIG continues to have its turbulent subsidiary continue to bring on new clients and use the profits to help fund continued development and support for CIG or for Star Citizen and its servers after full release? I don't know if they'll bring on new clients, but I'm sure they'll keep their current client base. I don't think CIG wants to become a web developer necessarily. But they're making, someone put in chat, I think it was Big Black Gaming, who said they went from having like 9 million profit in 2018 to like 25 million profit in 2021, or 2022. So it's like, yeah, they're not stopping. It's like making a lot of money, and I can't imagine it's all just Star Citizen based. So
they can move from becoming a web-based development studio to becoming a Web3 development studio.
Oh no!
No, don't even go there.
No.
Why do you start rumors? Why do you keep starting rumors? Stop starting rumors. What I was going to say too is the what's the place called? The where they do the movement stuff.
Mocap. Oh,
their mocap studio. They've invested a tremendous amount of money in that new mocap studio, and if you remember, correct me if I'm wrong, Paul. They were in the beginning. They were leasing out Andy's place when they were doing their mocap. So and he was generating revenue from that. And so I'm sure CIG, and some of you guys know where they are in Manchester, is kind of like in a tech hub that's being developed out where there are artists and tech people and compute that are all in this area. So I can very easily see them leasing out that space for people who want to come in and do all types of stuff to bring in revenue that way. So they got smart people on their end with how they're going to generate money, guys. I don't think that it's something that we have to worry about running out of money anytime soon.
And when you said Andy, you mean Andy Serkis? Because I'm
Andy
not sure.
Serkis,
Everyone may not know that.
Yeah, thank you, Fastcart. Yeah, Andy Serkis. Yeah, Golem. Golem.
All right. Next question comes from Cavion, who says, "Can Star Citizen survive without Chris Roberts?" Yes, it can.
Yep.
Will it? I don't know.
I was going to say it can, but
yeah.
Well, that's another question.
I want to comment to that. I used to ask that question. I think it's a very valid question because we really see Chris as being the visionary for this. But what reassured me was when they started doing the pillar talks. When I started hearing, the Sean Tracy's, the Brian Chambers, those lead folks at the top, those top producers, sitting around the table and talking. Even our good friend, what's his name? Crusader guy. Economy guy.
Oh, not Tony Zervik.
Tony Zervik.
Yeah, Tony Z.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, Tony Zervik. All these guys, listening to them at the table, when I sit and listen to them, especially when Chris is on with them, it's like they get the vision. They understand what it is and they know what it is. They're not going to Chris each week saying, okay, what was it you want us to do next? I think that they've mapped that out very well and that they know where they're going. And that's dependent upon anybody at that company, whether people come and leave just because they move on or whatever the case may be. So I think that roadmap has been laid out well enough that they know where they're going, regardless to who's at the helm. And the fact that they remain independent is crucial to that too. If for some reason CIG got bought out and went under somebody else, I think that's when we better start sweating. But I think that they have a real good vision for what they're trying to do for this game.
Yeah. All right, moving on. Next question. Admiral Kusanagi asks, back in 2021, Cloud Imperium Games signed a 10-year lease agreement for around 3,000 square meters of rental space in one mixed-use development in Frankfurt. This was expected to be completed by early 2022. Do we know that they've moved into it yet, and how many positions have been added to Germany? They did move into it. They moved into it the same time as they moved into the new Frankfurt studio. They actually have some videos of it. And we don't know how many, if it was built to increase the capacity or if it was built to meet the current capacity. Because between 2019 and 2020, between 2019 and 2021, they increased. Like CIG skyrocketed in the amount of people who work for them. And I know this because the people I know who work at CIG Austin, they don't have enough. They literally do not have enough space for everyone to work there. Like they have to do work from home because they can literally not support the number of people they have on staff in the office. So some people are always work from home just because they have to be. So I think I don't know how many more of this. Do y'all know if they expanded the number of people?
I don't
know.
In fact, I've always been curious about them maintaining all the studios that they do, whether or not they were going to consolidate or what. I've always been curious about that because they are growing. They've expanded.
All right, next question.
I don't see them consolidating because I mean having studios on two different continents really helps them because they can do stuff in the hours that the other continent is working. So.
Oh no, don't get me wrong. I'm just saying in the beginning we understood the time zone thing. But I'm saying they're running LA, Austin, Canada, Manchester, Frankfurt, and someplace else. There's actually 6, aren't there? 6 of them now?
No,
different build facilities.
There was a facility in London.
So in London, right? One outside of London or something like that.
They shut down.
Like that.
Right. And I'm just saying whether it. Right. Yeah. They shut that. Okay, that one they shut down. Okay. Yeah. That's what I meant by consolidating. That's what I meant by consolidating.
Yeah.
Will they like move? Because like some people that were in LA went to go work in Manchester. You know what I mean? So I'm just kind of wondering, like Disco, for example,
Yeah.
Manchester,
They want to get as many people as they can from the company to move to Manchester to work at Manchester because it's got a huge studio space, so why not consolidate it? Like, I think CIG's headquarters is effectively Manchester. Like, LA
Darby,
may be
thank you,
business,
Alex.
There's Darby, yeah. I think Darby has been shut down. But now that CIG owns Turbulent, did you know what Turbulent was going to do? They were going to open up a studio in Lyon, France.
Oh, really?
Yes. Because they have connections. They were. I don't know if they still are.
They were.
That's interesting.
A video game studio. So.
See, Black Sky Legion opens up something because this came up at the Virtual Bar Citizen, whether or not they'll open up something in Asia.
Yeah, I don't think they were. I've heard the rumors that they were going to open up one in China, but I don't see them really doing so. I'd actually see them open them in Australia before they open up in China or South Korea.
Okay. Yeah, but I'm just saying someplace over that way, would be interesting.
But that would mostly be because of like, what is it called? What's the term called? It's when you're translating everything over to a different language.
Localization.
Is it localization? Yeah, localization. It'd probably be more like a localization.
Well, let me tell you something. You saw what happened at that freaking Star Citizen they had over there, Jack. This is
Yeah.
a very serious investment. If they go over there. They ain't
listen,
playing.
there
They ain't
are
playing over
people. There are
Look,
people
We got
here.
to get it together. We got to get it together over here because
There are people. There are people who are watching this show right now, or watching the recording of this right now, who because I know them because I mentioned it, and people like who are in China, South Korea, Japan, like. Apparently, like what I've heard is that South Korea and China and Taiwan have huge communities, and Japan is smaller than the rest of them. But it's only because of like there's a small problem there. There's something there that if CIG just changed like one small thing, they'd have a much bigger community. And it just blows my mind because then I remember, oh right, and then France has got a massive community, and Germany's got a huge community. Yep. It's like. I'm so used to dealing with the English side of the speaking community. I'm like,
yep.
All of you, like, this is what, why, how, this, like, I have no idea how so many people around the world are playing this stupid little space game.
I'm just wondering how people over in North America are going to come together and make something comparable to the bingo carrier like they had in what is it, Korea, China? Because I'm looking forward to someone making one of those over here so I can check that
Listen,
out.
we'll build a 1-to-1 retribution over Idaho. All right. No one cares. No one cares about Idaho. We'll just build one over the state of Idaho. There we go.
And I had the perfect slogan. Build that retribution.
We can't. We're falling behind in the model gap. China is beating us in the model gap. We need to build bigger.
We got to start funding JDR, fund those guys, and say, hey man, we need y'all to blow it out the water this year.
Listen, JR. I do not kid you. JR has said his dream is to build a 1-to-1 MPUV.
Really?
A 1-to-1 Argo
That's
MPUV.
Cool.
There'd be like a model of that. It's like so. If you want us to beat the Chinese community, my fellow Star Citizen gamers, we need to Western gamers. We need to do it. We need to do that.
There you go.
And send it on a goodwill tour to our friends in China.
There you go.
All right. Next question comes from Guns and Glue, who asks, "What level of Soon TM is modularity practically hitting the game? From ship modularity to modularity." We do know that John Cruz said that they solved the problem. We know they said they solved the problem.
That's right.
Yep.
They solved the problem. So the technical aspect is done. Now the real question is, now that they have the technical aspect, like the engine doesn't hate it. Now the problem is actually making them and then figuring out how to develop the tools to attach them, and then how do you unattach them? It's the gameplay question. And I think we have to wait for a lot of that to happen as well. So you build a 1-to-1 Star Citizen ship and you'll realize how fucking huge they are. A 1-to-1 MPUV would probably be bigger than the room I'm in. Probably about the same size as the room I'm in right now.
Yeah,
Probably be like a half or like a quarter of a typical American home would be the size. Probably it's taller and bigger than a biggest American car you could find. So, all right. What do you think though? What do you think in terms of modularity? How close do you think we are? Are we like yes, or are we like soon? TM.
Good FC.
Citizen Con modularity. I made my prediction.
Okay,
that's a fair prediction.
I don't think we'll see it released, but I wouldn't be surprised
something about it
if we had a panel on it. Yeah.
I chuckled when the question came about modularity because this is like, keeps coming up every once in a while. To your point, John Cruz said they've gotten past the hurdle technically. There are a lot of ships that count on modularity in the game. Some of them we've lost that on. Correct me if I'm wrong, Paul, but originally even the Cutlass was supposed to have modularity, I think, at one point. Mm-hmm. The ships that we do know that CIG has talked about for sure, though, are ships like the Caterpillar. We've talked about ships like on the Carrack, where you have the modules underneath it, the cargo pods. The Retaliator is one of them. At one point,
The
the Avenger was supposed to be modular, and then the Aegis series was supposed to be with the BUKs. And that kind of got shifted around.
The Vanguard,
the Warden series. So there are ships that have had that. Then we've got the Galaxies, and then the Galaxies was my step toward things being promising, because if they continue to produce ships saying that modularity was going to be a factor, that meant that it wasn't just a one-off thing, that they really do want to develop it. So when it will happen, that's a tough one. I agree with Fastcart. This CitizenCon would be a great opportunity for them to give us an update where we actually see it. You know, we many of us have bought the modules for the game, and I look at modularity as kind of a funny thing. There's modularity for me that actually changes the physical dynamics of the ship, like when we talk about a ship like the Endeavor, and then there's the modularity that the ship looks the same on the outside, but on the inside things have changed. And so, like the Galaxy, right? Like the Retaliator. So I am curious to see what CIG will release first. You know, what will be their thing. I think obviously the ones where the exterior stays the same, but the interior changes will probably be more the direction they'll go first. But hopefully, like Fastguard said, maybe at CitizenCon we'll get an update. You know,
I already gave my answer, but I'm gonna have to mark this date on my calendar, because not once but twice Griffin has agreed with me.
I agree with you a lot. Get out of here.
The follow-up question from Guns and Glue is also modularity missions and content in-game and arena commander as well, for like modularity. Missions are already modular.
Mm-hmm.
There's a handful of missions that aren't, but they're working on doing that right now. But all missions are module based, so they could rip them out and slap them onto different things and get them to work. So, yeah, like it's what Elliot's doing right now. If he's still here, if he's not asleep, I guess it's literally what he was here earlier. That's literally what he's doing. He's doing that. So the answer is probably by the end of the year, all of the missions that are in game right now will be modular, and they'll be continuing going forward. So, y'all have anything to add or?
No.
Okay.
Nope.
We got
How many more questions you got? How many more questions you got?
Three more.
Okay, that's good.
I was hoping that we would go long enough to raid relay. Oh well. I got to give some long-winded answers. Okay.
Electric Traveler asks, will there be more green warm planets with trees, lakes, mountains, and exploration vacations? Yeah, I think we're going to answer that question. Yes.
Yeah,
It was a similar question. It was a similar question like that. Yeah.
Rural areas for and fun areas for content creators to use to get some buzz out there. Yeah, sure. They'll definitely be like that, but I think we still have yet to see a desert planet. We have some deserts, but we don't have like desert. You know, we don't
the whole desert planet. I mean, they have biomes.
No, but I mean, like
different.
Well, you know what I mean? Like we don't have real deserts. We have like high deserts and shrub deserts. We don't have like the Sahara.
Desert.
Right.
We don't have Dune. We don't have Arrakis, you know?
Right.
Remember when Tatooine. Go ahead.
Remember when they showed us Pyro 3? Pyro 3 was oxygen-based, where, you know, originally it was supposed to be this big volcanic planet, but when they showed us the trailers during CitizenCon and the stuff with Jax, you know, it was a pretty flourishing kind of place where they were at, you know. So I know we want to see the Earth-like scenarios, but I think that there'll be also more alien scenarios too, where things look different, you know. So I think there's going to be a lot of possibilities for the world's different type of biomes. We'll see.
Yeah,
I'm looking for acid rain, not to be funny.
Yeah,
I really am. I'm looking for a place where, you know, if you're not in shelter when the acid rain comes down, Jack, you get jacked up. Or
imagine the performance hit you would hit when the acid rain hit your suit and starts melting.
It starts melting your suit.
Your PC would melt along with your suit.
There's a secret. There's a secret to it. CIG is going to have wear states, so while your suit's actually damaging, you won't actually see individual droplets ruin your suit. You might see like an effect, but what you'll see over time is your suit will start to get worn down from that.
Fine.
But yeah, I mean, it's the answer. All right, we have two more questions. This one's specifically for Fastcart. Fastcart, if you were to have a house built, would you base its interior design on the Banu Merchantman?
And I saw that question and popped up, and my immediate answer is no, not to mention it'll be the Phoenix, constellation Phoenix. I love the wood paneling in the Phoenix.
There we go.
And don't clip me on saying I love wood, but you know.
I'm not going to even go there. Keep going. Keep reading the questions.
Last question.
I'm not going to
I love the awkward silence. It feeds me. It feeds me.
Electric Traveler asks, how about a gambling planet like Vegas? Make money and lose money.
There is such a thing.
That might be
Yeah.
so.
Well, I can't remember where, but there's definitely locations. That
There
are
is
like that.
there is a place that's like that. And I can't think of it either, but there is a place that's known for going to for gambling and stuff.
It might be in Ellis. Ellis is a huge system. It's like 12 planets in the Ellis system, and like half of them are terraformed. So, like, yeah, it'll definitely happen. Yeah, it's the last question. Thank you so much for Fastcart and Griffin for joining us. Thank you for all of you listening. If you're listening to this on the podcast format, thank you so much. Make sure you always leave a like or whatever the kind of equivalent is there. It helps out a lot. And thank you for watching this live. For those of you who have been watching this live, it's been fun to have you all here. And yeah, I will see you all next week. Make sure if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you hit the subscribe button, you like the video, and comment down below. And like always, and of course, come check us out tomorrow at the Soul Citizens
Part 2, or we repeat all this stuff all over again.
Yes, with new and interesting things. So it'll be more in depth and other perspectives. So, but thank you again, and yeah, like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black. All right, so I'm going to end the recording here shortly, but I wanted to make sure, not recording, but the stream shortly. Let's find someone to raid. Let's see, I try to find somebody who's a smaller streamer, or who's someone